Hospital, maternity ward. Slap the moment Summer Sullivan was wheeled out of the delivery room, a stack of papers was thrown viciously in her face. Already extremely weak from childbirth, a sharp sting shot across her cheek. She turned in astonishment to look at the man with the dark, menacing expression. "Summer Sullivan, you're the only one who would dare to cheat on me." Ethan Blackwood, Ethan's hands, hanging at his sides, were clenched into tight fists. He was gripping them so hard that his knuckles had turned a terrifying, bone white. The man's perpetually stern, handsome face looked as if it had been dipped in ice, so cold it was chilling, without a trace of warmth. Summer instinctively glanced at the papers scattered across the floor, then looked back at him in bewilderment. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" In her 23 years of life, he was the only man she had ever been with. She had just given birth to his child. Why would he say something so bizarre? Feeling the curious stares of people around them, Summer propped herself up with her hands and sat up. "Ha!" Ethan sneered, his cold eyes filling with rage. He suddenly lunged forward and grabbed Summer's neck, hissing through gritted teeth, "You're type A, I'm type OB. If the baby were mine, how could he possibly be type O? Huh." Summer could barely breathe under his grip. When she saw his eyes, bloodshot with fury, her heart trembled. She struggled to speak. "Ethan, could the doctors have made a mistake? With our blood types, how could we have a type O child?" "Made a mistake?" Ethan scoffed, shoving her back onto the hospital bed. "Open your eyes and see for yourself." Summer was filled with suspicion, but her pale face showed no trace of guilt. After a few violent coughs, she ripped the IV needle from her hand, swung her bare feet to the floor, and bent down to pick up the papers. She knew who the father was, so she had no fear of these baseless accusations. However, when she saw the blood type listed after son of Summer Sullivan was indeed O, she froze instantly. "This is impossible, it has to be a mistake." "Ha!" A mocking sneer played on the man's lips as he stared at Summer, his cold eyes glinting. "I'd like to see how you're going to argue your way out of this." With that, he turned and walked away. Ethan Blackwood, Summer threw the papers down and tried to run after him, but she was stopped by a sharp slap that left her stunned. A fiery pain spread across her cheek. She turned in shock to see her father, Gregory Sullivan, his face a mask of disgust and anger. "Dad, why did you hit me?" "You know perfectly well why." Gregory, fuming, pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, his eyes filled with contempt. "I paid people to take care of you for 10 months, thinking that if you gave birth to a Blackwood heir, I would become Ethan Blackwood's father-in-law. I never thought you'd give birth to a bastard. You've completely disgraced the Sullivan family name." "I didn't," Summer retorted loudly. "Ethan has been the only man in my life. How could I have someone else's child?" The doctors made a mistake. Just as she finished speaking, Ethan returned with a nurse holding the baby and a doctor. Summer's eyes instantly filled with tears when she saw the swaddling clothes she had prepared for the baby herself. Forgetting all the unpleasantness that had just occurred, she reached out to take the child. "Ethan, let me see our son." "He's your son, not mine." Ethan blocked her with his arm. "Test the baby's blood type again, right in front of her. I want to see how long this woman will keep up her lies." The doctor and nurse immediately took out their equipment and pricked the infant's tiny finger for a blood sample. "Wah!" The baby in the swaddling clothes began to cry, one wail after another. The sound snapped Summer back to reality. The needle felt as if it had pierced her own heart. Her eyes red, she looked at Ethan's grim face in disbelief. "Ethan, don't you believe me? Don't you realize how hurt he'll be when he grows up and finds out his own father suspected him like this?" "Summer, just stop arguing. How could Ethan be mistaken?" Gregory grabbed Summer's arm, keeping her away from the baby. Ethan's eyes remained fixed on the serum in the doctor's hands, completely ignoring her words. "Mr. Blackwood, it's type O, that's correct," the doctor announced, showing the result to Ethan. "Impossible." Summer's eyes widened. She shook off Gregory's hand and lunged for the baby in the doctor's arms. Ethan grabbed her wrist in time and shoved her away without a shred of mercy. Summer, physically drained, fell to the ground with a thud, as fragile as a withered leaf. Ethan took the baby, his cold gaze falling on the still crying infant. He gritted his teeth. "This child is a disgrace to the Blackwood family. He can't be kept." He turned and strode away. A tremor of shock went through Summer. She scrambled to her feet to chase after him. "Ethan, my baby, my baby." but as soon as she stood up, she felt a warm gush of fluid from below. The sticky liquid instantly soaked her legs, immobilizing her. "Help, the mother is hemorrhaging." Before she fainted, Summer heard a nurse's frantic shout. In the elevator, Ethan tore off his tie in frustration, the baby in his arms. Jean Sullivan, who had just stepped out of the adjacent elevator, saw him and quickly ran over, blocking the closing doors with her hand. "Ethan, wait for me," dressed in a red dress. Jean smiled sweetly at Ethan and stepped inside. The man's face remained dark, his brows tightly knitted, radiating a cold, unapproachable aura. Jean's sharp eyes darted around before she turned to him with a gentle expression. "Ethan, don't be angry with my sister. What happened isn't entirely her fault. It's my fault for not helping Dad keep a better eye on her." As she spoke, she tentatively reached out and took the baby from Ethan's arms. "Here, let me." Looking at the wrinkled infant in her arms, an almost imperceptible smirk touched the woman's red lips. "Little devil, he's actually kind of cute, this little face. It looks just like that bitch Summer." Ethan didn't stop her. His usually cold eyes narrowed slightly as he lifted her chin, a flicker of interest on his icy lips. "You know how to take care of a baby." Seeing that he didn't reject her, Jean grew bolder. Holding the baby with one arm, she placed the slender fingers of her other hand on his chest. "Isn't having and raising children a woman's duty? Ethan, at this point, our family can't expect you to marry my sister as planned. The wedding next month, is it going to be canceled?" The smile on the man's lips widened. "The Sullivan family doesn't just have Summer, does it? Aren't you a Sullivan daughter too?" Jean's eyes widened in delighted surprise. "Ethan, are you really willing to marry me?" Just then, the elevator reached the ground floor and Ethan's phone rang. Seeing it was his assistant, he answered with an annoyed frown. "What is it?" the assistant reported. "Sir, Miss Sullivan is hemorrhaging, and the blood bank is running low on type A." "What's the use in telling me she's hemorrhaging? If there's not enough blood, then let her die." Ethan hung up angrily. Jean raised an eyebrow and gently took Ethan's arm. "Ethan, is my sister suffering from postpartum hemorrhage? If they're short on blood, I can donate. We're half-sisters, so our blood type is the same." Hearing this, Ethan narrowed his eyes and looked her up and down. "I must have been blind before, to have never noticed someone as kind and sensible as you standing right beside Summer." Jean's heart swelled with pride, but she put on a shy smile. "It's my fault for not being good enough for you to notice me, Ethan." Ethan's lips curved into an inscrutable smile as he said through gritted teeth, "Fine, you go give her blood. I want her to live to see me marry you into the Blackwood family. I'll make her pay the price for betraying me. It's my duty to save my sister." Jean struggled to contain her overwhelming joy and triumph. "Ethan, I'll go donate blood now. Let me take the baby too. A man like you wouldn't know how to look after him. Thank you for your trouble." As he watched her cheerful figure walk away, the smile on his face slowly faded, replaced by a dark glint in his eyes. Summer had suffered a massive postpartum hemorrhage. It took the doctors over a dozen hours to pull her back from the brink of death. A day later, she finally opened her eyes. "You're really tough to survive after a 5,000 cc transfusion." Before she could make out her surroundings, a mocking voice came from beside her. Summer weakly turned her head and saw Jean's cold, triumphant face. She was standing with her arms crossed, looking down at her provocatively. Summer had no energy to deal with her. "Where is Ethan Blackwood?" she asked weakly. "Where is my child?" Jean stood up, leaned close, and whispered in her ear, "That bastard. He's dead." Summer's scalp tingled. A wave of shock hit her, but after a glance at Jean's sinister smile, she slowly composed herself. She mustered all her strength to sit up and glared coldly at Jean. "If you came here to gloat, you should be satisfied. You can see yourself out." As she tried to get out of bed, Jean pressed her down by the shoulder, a taunting smile on her face. "I know you don't believe me, but I can responsibly tell you that while your baby is fine for now, if you don't beg me properly, I might get upset and add some sleeping pills or something to his milk." "What do you mean?" Summer's heart lurched. She cut her off. "You're saying, my baby is with you?" Jean straightened up, raising her eyebrows smugly. "It's not like I wanted him, but Ethan insisted I help you take care of him, so I reluctantly agreed." Summer shot up, standing barefoot, and grabbed Jean's arm. "Take me to him. I'm not dead yet. It's not your place to take care of my child, her baby." She hadn't even had a proper look at him since he was born. How could she let another woman raise him? Especially not Jean. Just as Jean was about to shake her off, she caught a glimpse of someone entering the room. Her demeanor instantly changed to one of pitiful helplessness. "Sister, please don't worry. I'll take good care of the baby for you." The next second, before Summer could react, Jean dropped to her knees with a thud, a pleading look on her face. "Sister, I'm begging you, I can't give you the baby." Summer frowned, utterly confused. Before she could speak, a cold voice came from behind her. "I gave the baby to Jean. If you have a problem, take it up with me." Ethan walked in, his face grim. He glanced at Summer with disgust before bending down to help Jean up. "Are you all right?" Jean blushed shyly and said softly, "I'm fine, Ethan. Sister is his mother after all." "So what if she's his mother? If she doesn't name the man she cheated with, she will never see the child again." Ethan cut Jean off, his cold gaze fixed on Summer. Summer let out a bitter laugh, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Ethan Blackwood, in my mind, you've always been one of the most intelligent and wise men in this world. How could you believe the child isn't yours?" Her words seemed to infuriate him. His already stern face grew darker, and his deep eyes reflected a fierce, hateful glare. "That's because I trusted you too much. You played me for a fool. From now on, I only believe in evidence, only in the truth." Summer stood up straight, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Either the blood type was wrong, or the baby was switched. Ethan, if I were you, I would be investigating where my real child has gone." "Shut up, I don't need you to tell me what to do," Ethan interrupted impatiently. He turned to Jean. "The marriage contract between the Blackwood and Sullivan families will not be cancelled. In 1 month, Jean will marry me in your place. As for you, I will make you pay, bit by bit, for betraying me." Summer froze, staring at him in disbelief. "Ethan, you said you would marry me after the baby's 1-month celebration. Why are you marrying Jean instead?" "Ha," he sneered. "You publicly cheated on me and you still expect me to marry you? Summer, what do you take me for? A fool? I didn't," Summer screamed with all her might, her pale face a mask of despair. "Ethan, you know how much I've loved you all these years. Forget having another man's child. I haven't even looked at another man." Jean shot Summer a cool glance and linked her arm with Ethan's. "Ethan, let's not push my sister. I'm sure she didn't mean for this to happen." Seeing that Ethan didn't pull away from Jean, Summer felt a sharp blade twist in her heart, the pain suffocating her. She fought back the agony spreading through her chest and nodded with difficulty. "Fine, I agree. I won't marry you, but you have to give me back my child. Give you the child, so you can live happily ever after with your lover and complete your little family." Ethan sneered, his handsome face contorted with disgust and cruelty. "Until you name your lover, you will never see the child again." With that, Ethan turned to leave with Jean. Panicked, Summer rushed forward and grabbed his sleeve. "No, give me back my son." Ethan shook her off with revulsion. "If you still won't talk, I'll send the child away immediately." Jean looked down at Summer, who had fallen to the floor, a triumphant, sinister smile on her face. Yet her words were deceptively kind. "Sister, you can't hide the truth forever. Stop making Ethan angry. Just confess, who is the baby's father?" Summer ignored her. Without getting up, she knelt and crawled forward, clutching Ethan's arm. "Ethan, you are the father. What else can I say? If you don't believe me, we can do a paternity test. As long as it's my child, he is your child, Ethan Blackwood. Do you think I'm an idiot?" Ethan frowned, mercilessly shaking her off again. "I'll give you 3 days, think about it. In the meantime, the child will stay at Maplewood Estate, with Jean looking after him." With that, the man strode out of the room. Ethan, he's your son, he really is." Summer tried to get up and follow him, but Jean blocked her way. "Don't worry, sister. Even though the child isn't Ethan's, he is still yours. As his aunt, I'll be sure to raise him well. You're weak, you should rest." Jean's tone was gentle, but her eyes, fixed on Summer, were filled with a vicious, arrogant light. With a final smirk, she turned and sashayed out the door. "Ethan Blackwood," Summer called out helplessly but didn't chase after him. She had loved Ethan since she was a child, watching him from afar for years. But he had always been hot and cold towards her. After he went abroad as a teenager, she heard nothing from him. Then, a year ago, he suddenly returned. At a party, he had approached her and they quickly became a couple. The baby was an accident. When he found out, he proposed, but worried that a wedding during her pregnancy would be too stressful. He suggested they hold it after the baby's 1-month celebration. Summer had thought she was the happiest person in the world, but everything changed the moment she left the delivery room. She was certain about who the father was, but she couldn't believe Ethan would be so foolish. A blood test could prove identity, but it wasn't the only way. Ethan. His sudden coldness and hatred toward her must mean he was certain the child wasn't his. Then, there was only one possibility. The baby had been switched with this thought. Summer paced anxiously for a few moments before taking out her phone and making a call. Maplewood Estate. Jean stared at the sleeping infant in the crib, her brows slowly knitting together. Why does this little bastard look more and more like Ethan Blackwood? Those eyes, that mouth. Even the shape of his face seems identical. An ominous thought crept into her mind, and she frowned. Summer had always been a pushover. She started crushing on Ethan before she was even 10, but never had the courage to confess. Jean knew better than anyone the depth of Summer's feelings for him. It was pure, unwavering devotion. Now that she had finally gotten him, why would Summer risk it all by having another man's child? Could it really have been a mistake? Wah. The baby's cries interrupted Jean's thoughts. She hastily picked him up, but the baby wouldn't be placated and cried even louder. The nanny, Mrs. Gable, rushed in with a bottle and took the baby from her arms, saying with a pained expression, "He's just a newborn. What he needs most is his mother's milk. He's lucky to have any milk at all." Jean scoffed inwardly. In the study across the hall, Ethan heard the crying and his brow furrowed. He got up and walked out. Just as he opened the door, he heard Mrs. Gable's words and paused. "Sir, the baby won't take the bottle." Mrs. Gable saw him standing at the door and whispered while trying to soothe the wailing infant, "Many babies are naturally breastfed and refuse bottles. Poor thing." Jean glanced at the man's impassive face and hurried over to take the baby, trying to sound helpful. "Mrs. Gable, I'm his aunt, maybe he'll let me feed him." Ethan frowned in annoyance. "Just make him stop crying, go get Summer and have her feed him." Mrs. Gable's eyes lit up and she nodded repeatedly. "Yes, sir. I'll contact Miss Sullivan right away." With that, she subtly moved Jean's hands away and left with the baby. Mrs. Gable had been taking care of Summer since the beginning of her pregnancy. She couldn't understand it. Miss Sullivan was so kind and so good to Mr. Blackwood. Why would he banish her right after she gave birth to his child? And instead, he let this Miss Jean take care of the baby. As Mrs. Gable left with the infant, the smile on Jean's face froze. She awkwardly withdrew her hands and followed Ethan. "Ethan, didn't you say you wouldn't let my sister see the child?" Ethan stopped and turned to her with a smirk. "She hasn't seen him yet. Tell me, what's more painful, never seeing your child or seeing him and not being able to have him?" Although the man was smiling, the smile didn't reach his eyes. Jean's face lit up with understanding, and she breathed a sigh of relief. "You're brilliant, Ethan. Once Summer sees the baby, she'll be even more attached. To long for him day and night, but never be able to have him, That will be even more painful." Summer received Mrs. Gable's call and quickly arrived at Maplewood Estate. Her hands trembled as she took the baby from Mrs. Gable, her eyes turning red again and again. Her baby, her child. It had been 4 days since his birth, and this was the first time she had seen him. Looking at the little one's chubby lips and bright, dark eyes, the tears she had held back for so long finally streamed down her face. This was her child. He was absolutely her child. The familiar, innate connection she felt confirmed it beyond any doubt. She quickly turned around and lifted her shirt. The little one had stopped crying the moment she held him. Now faced with his meal, he latched on without hesitation, suckling eagerly. Feeling her child's dependence on her, Summer couldn't help but gently stroke his cheek. "My baby, Mommy is so sorry." Seeing this, Mrs. Gable's eyes reddened, and she quietly wiped away a tear. "Miss Sullivan, take your time feeding him. I'll wait outside." "Thank you," Summer said. She knew that if it weren't for Mrs. Gable, she might not have had the chance to see her baby at all. After Mrs. Gable left, Summer breastfed for a while, and the little one soon fell into a sweet sleep. Hearing the sound of a car engine from downstairs, Summer gently placed the baby in the crib and quickly took out a blood collection needle from her bag. Her hands trembled as she picked up the baby's tiny finger, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. This was her child. Why should she make him suffer pain at such a young age just to prove his identity? Is Summer still here? Hasn't she finished feeding him yet? Jean's impatient voice came from outside the door. Summer quickly picked up the baby again. When Jean pushed the door open, Summer was nursing the baby, softly cooing, There, my love, don't cry." Jean strode over and snatched the baby from her arms. "He's done. You can get out now." Summer didn't fight back. She adjusted her clothes and looked at Jean with a warning in her eyes. "Jean, you can hate me, and you can hate my child, but remember this. He is also Ethan Blackwood's son. If you dare to touch a single hair on his head, Ethan will make you pay a terrible price." With a final, longing look at her baby, she turned and left. "Don't try to scare me, he's not Ethan's child," Jean shouted after her, unwilling to be one-upped. As Summer came downstairs, she ran right into Ethan, who was just returning home. Taking a deep breath, Summer blocked his path and got straight to the point. "Ethan, I've consulted with experts. Sometimes, a newborn's blood type can be inaccurate. If you don't believe it, you can take him for a paternity test." Ethan glanced at her, a mocking curve to his lips. "Don't you get it? The only reason I agreed to marry you was to get revenge for you rejecting me all those years ago. The one I've always loved is Jean, not you." The dark glint in his eyes was crueler than his words. Summer froze. All those years ago, it took her a long time to find her voice. "When did I ever reject you?" For all these years, she had been the one silently loving him, and he had never expressed any feelings for her. Ethan's lips curled into a cold smile. "The past is a lifelong humiliation for me. You, Miss Sullivan, were always so aloof. Why would you ever notice me?" He paused, not giving her a chance to respond, and continued through gritted teeth. "And now you have the audacity to humiliate me again by cheating on me since you're so shameless. Don't blame me for being ruthless." With a hateful glare, he started to walk past her. Summer rushed to grab his arm. "Ethan Blackwood, don't you dare walk away. You explain yourself back then." "No, for all these years, I've loved you in secret. But I was too scared to tell you because so many people liked you. Jean told me you were in love with her. So I kept my feelings for you hidden. If you hadn't suddenly come back a year ago and approached me, I never would have dared to hope. Ethan, in this past year, the only men I've seen are my father and you. You were my first love, my first kiss, my everything. I gave it all to you. How can you not believe that my child is yours?" Summer's voice trembled more and more as she spoke. Thinking of all the years she had secretly loved him, she was overwhelmed with sorrow. He could not love her, he could misunderstand her, but he could not deny her love for him. Frowning, Ethan glanced at the weeping woman beside him. His other hand, at his side, clenched into a tight fist. "I will never believe another word you say," Ethan said, pushing her away. "It's the same as before. Unless you name the man you cheated with, you will never have the child." With that, the man strode into the house and went upstairs. Watching his determined back, Summer bit her lip so hard it nearly bled. "Ethan, what's happened to you?" She clutched her bag tighter and turned, leaving Maplewood Estate. Ethan's attitude had changed too quickly, so fast that it felt unreal. Something must have happened, but no one would tell her what. Since he didn't believe the child was his now, she would find a way to make him believe. After leaving Maplewood Estate, Summer called Simon Vance. Besides Ethan, he was the only person in the city she trusted. In a coffee shop, Summer handed Simon the baby's blood sample and the toothbrush she had secretly taken from Ethan. "Simon, please, I'm counting on you. Make sure the results are completely accurate." Simon took the items and nodded. "Summer, I suggest you give me a sample of your own as well. I'll run a test between you and the baby too." "Oh, right," Summer nodded. She had initially suspected the baby might have been switched, which would explain why the blood type didn't match hers and Ethan's. But after seeing the child, she was certain he was the one she had given birth to. Still, to be absolutely sure, she pulled out a few strands of her hair and gave them to Simon. Summer had just returned to the Sullivan house when she received a video call request from Jean on WhatsApp. Her first thought was of the baby, and she answered without hesitation. The moment the call connected, the sound of a baby's heart-wrenching cries filled the air, making Summer's heart clench. "My baby mommy's here, don't cry." Summer frantically tried to see into the video, but all she could see was Jean's arrogant face. "Jean, what have you done to my son? Why is he crying like that? Soothe him, quickly." Summer's tears fell as she spoke, her hands shaking as she held the phone. Jean finally aimed the camera at the wailing baby in the crib. Summer looked closely, and her eyes widened in horror. In the middle of autumn, Jean had stripped the baby, completely naked. The baby's body was red from the cold. His little arms and legs flailing helplessly in the air as he cried his heart out, his eyes squeezed shut. Summer felt as if a heavy hammer had struck her head. The pain was instantly suffocating. Her child, her baby, Jean was abusing her baby. Jean, are you insane? This is a crime. Summer's voice trembled along with her heart. She wanted to kill Jean at that very moment. The camera in Jean's hand shifted, focusing on a long, thin silver needle she was holding. Seeing the cold glint of the needle, Summer's breath caught in her throat. She screamed, "Jean, what do you think you're doing?" Jean hovered the needle over the crying baby, then turned to the camera with a sinister smile. "This bastard is too noisy. He's disturbing my rest. I'm trying to decide whether to poke him with this needle until he can't cry anymore, or just give him some sleeping pills so he'll go to sleep quietly." Ha ha ha. Hearing Jean's maniacal laughter, Summer's scalp tingled. She clutched her chest, where an indescribable pain was spreading, and begged softly, "Jean, please, don't do anything reckless. Don't hurt my baby. You love Ethan so much, don't you? He's Ethan's son too." "Shut up." Jean's smile vanished. She raised the needle and lunged toward the baby's arm. "He's a bastard, born from you and some other man, not Ethan's. He's not. Wah wah." The baby's cries grew even more heartbreaking. Summer screamed, "Stop," and blindly grabbed the car keys from a nearby counter, running out the door. Hearing the sound of a car engine through the video call, Jean let out a sinister laugh. "Drive slowly now. Don't get into an accident and die that way. You'll never see your son again. Ha ha ha." After a few more laughs, Jean ended the call. Baby, don't be scared. Mommy's coming." Summer struggled to control her emotions as she started the car and sped away. She had to get to Jean, she had to get to Ethan, she had to get her child back. She didn't care about proving anything anymore. If Ethan wouldn't believe her, she was done explaining. All she wanted was her child. He was her life. The steady autumn rain had, at some point, turned into a downpour. Summer kept accelerating, flying through the rain. She ran countless red lights before finally turning into the villa complex of Maplewood Estate. But just as she made the turn, before she could straighten the wheel, a truck came speeding towards her. Screech, the sound of screeching brakes was piercing in the quiet suburbs. When Ethan returned to Maplewood Estate, Jean dutifully handed him his slippers. "Ethan, driving in the rain must be exhausting. Is the baby behaving?" Ethan asked coolly. "He is. He fell right asleep after he ate," Jean replied, though a flash of annoyance crossed her mind. "Ethan, is he actually concerned about this bastard?" Ethan's phone rang suddenly. He answered it as he walked upstairs. "Sir, Miss Sullivan was in a car accident. She's been taken to the hospital," his assistant reported cautiously. The man stopped in his tracks, his brows furrowing deeply. "Send me the address." After the brief command, he turned to leave again. Jean rushed to stop him. "Ethan, what happened? What's wrong with Summer?" Ethan subtly pushed her hand away, his voice heavy. "Summer was in a car accident." "What?" Jean feigned surprise, then quickly asked, "But you've already announced that you have nothing to do with her. Isn't it inappropriate for you to go see her now?" Ethan shot her a sharp look. "If she dies, our wedding will have to be postponed. She deserves to die, but not now." With that cold statement, he grabbed his car keys and hurried out the door. Watching him leave without a second glance, Jean's face flushed with anger. "Summer, you bitch, even after all this, Ethan still can't let you go. In that case, don't blame me for being ruthless at the hospital." As Summer was being wheeled into a room, the assistant reported to Ethan in a low voice. "Thankfully, the airbag deployed in time. Miss Sullivan has a moderate concussion and a few scrapes on her forehead, but otherwise, she's not seriously injured." Ethan glanced at the hospital room, his brow furrowed. "Investigate the cause of the accident. From start to finish, Summer must be alive and well before my wedding to Jean." The assistant nodded quickly. "Understood." He hesitated for a moment, then looked at Ethan as if to say something more. "But Miss Sullivan—" "No buts," Ethan cut him off, giving him a cold, warning look before turning and walking towards the elevator. Summer was awakened by the piercing cries of a baby. She frowned slightly and slowly opened her eyes. When she saw Jean sitting beside her, she shot up in bed. A wave of dizziness washed over her. She pressed a hand to her head and asked, her brows knitted, "Jean, where is my son?" Jean's lips curled into a sinister smile. She held out her phone and played a video. "Your precious baby is right here." Summer snatched the phone. In the video, Jean was holding the naked baby, cackling as she threw him high into the air, only for him to land heavily on the bed. Even though the bed was soft, the baby was terrified and wouldn't stop crying, his little face scrunched up in misery. Each cry was like a dagger to Summer's heart, shattering what little sanity she had left. "You monster, I'm going to kill you." Summer broke down completely. She threw the phone aside and began to claw wildly at Jean. Suddenly, she spotted a fruit knife in a fruit basket nearby. She grabbed it and lunged at Jean. "You evil woman, give me back my son. Sister, you can't blame me." Jean dodged then, seeing the man who had just walked in, she quickly hid behind him. "Ethan, look, my sister has gone crazy, she's trying to kill me." Summer, barefoot, got off the bed. Her eyes were red as she glanced at Ethan, then raised the fruit knife high. "Ethan Blackwood, you idiot, you handed your own son over to this demon, she's going to torture our child to death." By the end, Summer's voice was hoarse, her sobs were desperate, and her body was shaking uncontrollably. She hadn't properly recovered from childbirth, and the continuous physical and emotional trauma had left her utterly exhausted. At this point, she was running on sheer willpower. Seeing Summer in this state, Ethan's brow furrowed deeply. He had never seen this side of her before. She was so terrifying she seemed like a stranger. The woman who had always been so gentle and quiet now had disheveled hair and a deathly pale face. Only her eyes were bloodshot, filled with an all-consuming hatred. She radiated an aura of absolute desperation. "Summer, if you ever want to see your child again, get back in bed and rest." Ethan's fists were clenched, but his voice, for some reason, trembled slightly. It was this version of Summer that stirred an indescribable emotion within him. "Ethan Blackwood, you bastard, you're a fool. If anything happens to my son, I swear I won't let either of you go. Even in death." Summer screamed like a madwoman, then raised the knife and lunged at Jean, who was still hiding behind Ethan. Slash, the sound of a blade slicing through fabric and flesh filled the room. Everyone froze. Jean's eyes widened as she stared at Ethan, who had taken the blow for her. A bloody gash was visible on his arm. The knife had torn through his coat and shirt, and blood was now seeping out, a shocking crimson. But Ethan only frowned slightly. "Summer, have you had enough?" Summer, still holding the knife, was trembling uncontrollably. She let out a cold, chilling laugh. "Good, since you're willing to die for her, then you can die together, the two of you. Once you're dead, I can have my son back." She screamed hysterically and raised the knife to strike again. Ethan's brow tightened. With a swift side kick, the tip of his shoe connected with Summer's hand. With a clatter, the fruit knife fell to the floor. Medical staff, alerted by the commotion, rushed in and managed to restrain Summer. Summer fought back with all her might. "Let me go, I have to kill that vicious woman, kill that stupid man. Give me back my son." "Ethan, you're hurt. Let's get that bandaged," Jean said, cradling his arm with a look of concern. Ethan pulled his arm away, his gaze fixed on Summer. "It seems you've developed paranoid delusions. If this hospital can't help you, perhaps you should spend some time recovering in a psychiatric facility." "I haven't," Summer shouted, tears streaming down her pale, desolate face. She laughed coldly. "Ethan Blackwood, when you finally realize that the child your beloved woman is torturing is your own flesh and blood, I hope your pain is 1,000 times greater than mine is right now. Take her to the psychiatric ward," Ethan ordered the doctors. "Yes, Mr. Blackwood." The medical staff immediately began to move the nearly hysterical Summer out of the room. "Ethan Blackwood, you'll regret this. I hate you. I hate that I love you for a long time after." Summer's desperate screams echoed through the hallway. Ethan closed his eyes and took a deep breath, slowly unclenching his fists. "Regret. Ha, the moment I fell in love with her, I already regretted it. Psychiatric hospital." Summer sat by the window, watching the vacant-faced patients outside, a sense of despair creeping into her heart. She had been locked in here by Ethan for half a month, and all her fight was gone. She had no strength left to resist. But every day, when she thought of her son, the gnawing longing would wrap around her like a venomous snake, making it hard to breathe. Her only comfort was that Mrs. Gable would secretly have a driver come to pick up breast milk for the baby whenever Ethan wasn't around. The moments she spent expressing milk for her son were the only solace she had. When Simon Vance walked in, he saw the motionless woman sitting by the window and frowned in pain. He quietly approached and stood beside her. He hadn't seen her in half a month, and she had grown even thinner, looking utterly haggard. "Summer, I'm sorry I'm late." The familiar voice seemed to come from a great distance. Summer stared blankly for a long time before slowly turning around. "Simon, you're finally here." A flicker of surprise and relief appeared on her pale face. Simon sighed. "You're still supposed to be recovering from childbirth. How did you get into such a state?" Summer gave a weak smile. "I'm fine. It's quiet here. The food is good and the bed is comfortable." She paused, then asked urgently, "Simon, the test results. Are they in?" Simon's eyes flickered for a moment before he sat down beside her. "They came in a while ago, but I couldn't reach you. Ethan Blackwood blocked all information about you. I had to ask around a lot to find out you were here." Summer waved away his explanation. "What were the results?" Simon took the report from his folder and handed it to her. "The child is indeed not Ethan Blackwood's, but he is, without a doubt, your biological son." "What?" Summer's hand froze as she reached for the report, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible, how could my child not be his? Impossible." She snatched the report and flipped to the last page. There were 2 paternity tests, one between the child and Ethan and one between her and the child. The results were clear. The child was biologically hers, but not Ethan's. Fearing she had misread it, Summer rubbed her eyes again and again, but the black and white text remained unchanged. "How could this be? I've never been with any man other than Ethan." Summer repeated the words in a daze, her face a mask of disbelief. She couldn't accept this result. Something had to be wrong. Simon gently patted her shoulder. "We've done a blood test and a paternity test. Ethan has done his own tests as well. That's why he's so certain the child isn't his. Summer, do you have any idea what could have happened?" Summer shook her head frantically. "Simon, don't you believe me either? You, of all people besides Jean, know how I feel about Ethan." "Don't panic, just listen to me," Simon said, holding her shoulders to steady her. "Now that Ethan has these results, he won't spare you or the child. Here's what I think we should do. I'll find a way to get the baby and bring him to you. Then, I'll take both of you away from here. Once you're out of Ethan's sight, I'll help you investigate what really happened. What do you think?" At the mention of taking her child, Summer nodded without hesitation. "Yes, as long as I can take my son, I'll go anywhere." "All right, I'll arrange it immediately," Simon said, giving her a reassuring look. "By the way, what's the baby's name?" His name? Summer's throat tightened. During her pregnancy, she had asked Ethan countless times what they should name their child. Each time, he would just say, "You decide." She had considered so many options, but now his name was still undecided. "Let's call him Leo," Summer said softly. "All right." Simon handed Summer a new phone. "I'll bring Leo to you as soon as I can. We'll use this phone to stay in touch." Maplewood Estate. Jean was looking through a catalog of wedding dresses when Leo suddenly started to cry. She tossed the catalog aside in annoyance and patted Leo's face. "You little brat, if you keep crying, I'll cut your tongue out." Ethan, coming downstairs, heard her words and his brow furrowed. "I thought you liked children." Startled by his voice, Jean's face went pale for a second, but she quickly composed herself and turned to him with a smile. "I was just playing with him, Ethan, haven't you heard? When children are little, the more you like them, the less you should praise them, or they won't grow up well." Ethan glanced at her coolly, then walked over to the liquor cabinet and poured himself a drink. "You're certainly patient. I can't stand the sight of him. We should send him to Summer as soon as possible." Jean was confused. "Didn't you say she wouldn't see the child until she named her lover?" "I need to focus on preparing for our wedding. I don't have time for this. After we're married, I'll deal with it," Ethan said, downing a glass of red wine in one gulp. Hearing this, Jean's face lit up, and she gave a shy smile. "I'll do whatever you say." After her smile faded, Jean watched as Ethan's gaze occasionally drifted towards the baby's bassinet. Her hands, at her sides, clenched into tight fists. Ethan says he hates Summer and this child, but sometimes the way he looks at the baby seems gentle. Jean wasn't sure if she was imagining it, but she made a decision. Neither Summer nor this child could remain in Ethan's life. Otherwise, there was no guarantee that the man she had fought so hard to win wouldn't slip through her fingers. Summer never dreamed that Mrs. Gable would bring Leo to her at the hospital. "Mrs. Gable, thank you. Summer Sullivan, will never forget your kindness," Summer said, her voice choked with emotion as she took Leo from Mrs. Gable's arms. Today was the 20th day since his birth, and she had woken up to the sight of the son she had longed for day and night. Looking at the little one's sweet, sleeping face, Summer couldn't help but lean down and kiss his forehead. "My baby, I'm so sorry, so sorry. It's Mommy's fault. It's taken so long for me to be able to hold you properly." Mrs. Gable wiped her eyes. "Miss Sullivan, as much as I want you and the child to be reunited, I wouldn't dare bring him to you behind Mr. Blackwood's back. It was Mr. Blackwood who arranged for me to bring him to you today." Summer was stunned. She looked at Mrs. Gable in disbelief. "Ethan?" Mrs. Gable hesitated for a moment, then decided to tell the truth. "Mr. Blackwood said he needs to focus on his wedding to Miss Jean, and the baby's crying was bothering him. So he told me to bring him to you. He said he'll come for you after the wedding is over. So that's it. He found my son too noisy, disturbing his peace with Jean." Summer let out a self-deprecating laugh and leaned down to kiss Leo's forehead again. "You're such a good boy, making a fuss. If you hadn't, Mommy wouldn't have had the chance to see you." After Mrs. Gable left, Summer immediately contacted Simon, who said he would come to pick her and Leo up soon. In the coffee shop, Jean handed a black bag to the young woman sitting across from her. "Once this is done, I'll send you abroad and make sure you live the rest of your life in luxury." The woman took the bag and quickly put it in her purse. "Miss Sullivan, are you sure this won't be discovered?" Jean took a leisurely sip of her coffee and raised an eyebrow confidently. "If it wasn't foolproof, do you think I would have come to you personally?" The woman nodded. "Understood. I'll do it tonight." After the woman left, Jean finished her coffee in one gulp, a vicious, triumphant smile spreading across her face. Inside the black bag was a syringe filled with the blood of an AIDS patient. "Summer, let's see just how lucky you are. When Ethan finds out how filthy you are, let's see if he can still think about you." Night. This was Summer's first night with Leo. Even though the baby had fallen asleep peacefully after feeding, she couldn't bear to put him down. She held him for a long time before gently placing him in the bassinet beside her. Under the bright moonlight, she looked at her son's handsome little face, a mirror image of Ethan's, and frowned with a mixture of pain and confusion. If the DNA test was correct, then where did things go wrong? Simon said he would help her, but how? She felt as if Ethan was deliberately hiding something. What was he really thinking? As she pondered these unanswerable questions, Summer slowly drifted off to sleep. Not long after she fell asleep, a nurse quietly opened the door and entered the room. The nurse approached Summer's bed and, with a soft hiss, sprayed a mist into the air. Summer stirred in her sleep, then fell still. The nurse knelt down, gave a thumbs up to a camera in the corner, then took out a syringe. She found a vein in Summer's arm and slowly pushed the liquid inside. The Sullivan Villa. Jean swirled the red wine in her glass, her eyes glued to the video feed, her excitement palpable. Watching the crimson blood from the syringe slowly enter Summer's body was like watching a venomous snake slither under her skin, about to consume her completely. The feeling was indescribably satisfying. Her face, usually so sweet and innocent in public, was now twisted with a manic glee, her eyes glowing eerily in the quiet night. "Ha ha. Ethan, from now on, you are mine, all mine. You have no idea how long I've waited for this day." The thought of having Ethan all to herself made Jean laugh out loud, a dreamy expression on her face. But soon her laughter turned sinister, as chilling as a wind from hell. "Summer, don't blame me. Who told you to be my dear sister? And to occupy Ethan's heart for so many years. Now that he loves me, not you, your life has no meaning. You might as well go join your short-lived mother. I'll burn paper money for you on Memorial Day. Rest in peace." She watched as the nurse, Wei, finished injecting the blood, cleaned up the medical supplies, and gave a victorious thumbs up to the camera. Jean's heart soared. She felt no remorse, only a sense of elation. She took out her phone and called a number she had on standby. "The time is right. Destroy the psychiatric hospital's surveillance equipment immediately. Tell Nurse Wei she did a beautiful job. I'll transfer the rest of the money to her account." Her voice was filled with an unstoppable excitement. Everything was going so smoothly. Everything she had ever wanted was finally coming true. It was worth all the years of patience. Since they were children, she had effortlessly taken everything that was Summer's. Fate was always on her side, Jean thought with satisfaction. Psychiatric hospital. Early the next morning, Summer had just managed to sit up when she felt dizzy and lightheaded. She had to sit for a moment to recover before getting dressed and out of bed. She touched her forehead. It felt hot. She must have caught a cold. She looked at Leo, sleeping soundly beside her, and her heart filled with a mix of tenderness and guilt. Her son had just come back to her, and she had already gotten sick. She couldn't even breastfeed him. What a useless mother she was. Leo, will you blame Mommy? My child, I'm so sorry. But trust me, Mommy will get you out of here soon, and we'll live a happy life together. Perhaps it was the sickness that made her feel so vulnerable. As she spoke, thinking of Ethan's cruelty, tears began to stream down her face. Leo, Daddy won't acknowledge you, but you still have Mommy. I'll give you all the love you need, so you won't feel the absence of a father. Please forgive me, okay? But the thought that she was all her son had in the world made her quickly wipe away her tears, her expression turning firm and resolute. She wanted to get up and prepare formula for the baby, but her body was too weak, and a wave of drowsiness washed over her. Knock, knock, knock. Just as Summer was forcing herself to get up, there was a knock on the door. Summer, are you awake? It's me, Simon. May I come in? Simon's usual gentle voice came from outside. Simon, come in. As she spoke, Summer realized her voice was terribly hoarse, nothing like its usual clear tone. Summer, are you not feeling well? Why is your voice so raspy? Simon pushed the door open and asked anxiously, his handsome face etched with concern. Simon, I think I have a cold. I'm so afraid of giving it to Leo, Summer said worriedly. Simon saw the unhealthy flush on her face, strode over and touched her forehead. It was burning hot. Summer, you have a high fever. I have to take you to a doctor right now. We'll have to postpone our plan to leave today, Simon said, his face full of worry. Simon, I'm so sorry. I'm so useless getting sick at a time like this, Summer said guiltily. Summer, it's not your fault. You've been under so much stress lately, it's normal for your body to give out. It's all Ethan Blackwood's fault for being so heartless. Simon quickly reassured her. Seeing her like this made his heart ache. Such a good woman, tormented by Ethan to this state. He swore he would rescue her and take her away from this terrible place. Simon, I don't want to talk about him anymore. I just want to get better quickly and take Leo away from here. At the mention of Ethan, Summer's fever-clouded eyes cleared for a moment, filled with determination. He was the man she had loved so much, the light in her gray life, the only color in her black and white world. But in the end, that color had turned into a glaring, bloody red. She shouldn't have been so greedy as to hope for love. Now, all she wanted was to leave this place with Leo and live a simple, free life. Okay, Summer. I'll take you to the doctor now. As soon as you're better, we'll take Leo and leave. Seeing the resolve in her eyes, Simon knew she had completely given up on Ethan. A flicker of joy passed through him. He was no saint, he was a petty man. He had once thought Ethan could make her happy and had quietly stepped aside. But Ethan had treated her with such cruelty. So, let him be the one to give her a happy life. He would do anything for her. Simon, thank you for everything you've done for me and Leo, Summer said gratefully. Summer, you should never say thank you to me, Simon said, looking deeply into her eyes, his own overflowing with affection. Summer could only nod. She thought to herself that once she was better and had settled down with Leo, she would make things clear with Simon. He deserved to find a woman who was right for him, who would love him back. As for her, she was not worthy of his kindness. She couldn't love again. Her capacity for love had been exhausted. She just wanted to live for Leo. Summer had wanted to take Leo to the hospital with her, but she was afraid of passing her cold to him. She had to repeatedly ask the nurse Simon had hired to take good care of the baby before she reluctantly left. She had just stepped out of the psychiatric hospital when she ran straight into Ethan and Jean. Already weak, Summer was bumped by Jean and stumbled. Just as she was about to fall, Simon quickly wrapped his arm around her. Summer, are you okay? Simon asked with concern. Simon, thank you. I'm fine. Summer steadied herself and stared angrily at Jean. Jean, who had bumped into her, showed no sign of apology. She was clinging to Ethan's arm, a shy smile on her face, her eyes filled with a taunting, triumphant light as she looked at Summer. She pressed herself even closer to Ethan, as if declaring her ownership. Ethan was as cold as ever, but when his deep eyes fell on Simon's hand on Summer's shoulder, a flash of anger and darkness crossed his face. Miss Jean, you nearly knocked your own sister over. Shouldn't you apologize? Simon said, looking at the indifferent Jean with righteous indignation. Summer, I didn't expect you to be so restless even in a psychiatric hospital. Who is this man? An old flame or a new lover? Ethan suddenly spoke, his sculpted face unreadable, but his words dripping with contempt. Summer had thought she could be indifferent if she saw him again, but when such vile words came from his mouth, she felt her heart being sliced apart once more. His words were like poison-tipped daggers, stabbing into her heart, one by one, until she could barely breathe. "Oh, Ethan, Simon has had a crush on my sister since we were little. He's still so protective of her. I'm almost a little jealous," Jean said with deliberate exaggeration. "Ha, who would have thought, Summer, you're quite skilled at seducing men?" Ethan sneered, his eyes, when he looked at Simon, filled with rage. Feeling Ethan's anger, Jean's hatred for Summer grew even stronger. This woman, still causing trouble even now. Even though Ethan doesn't love her anymore, she was once his woman. A proud man like Ethan would never tolerate his former woman being so intimate with another man in front of him. She should just disappear. Looking at how weak she is, the AIDS virus must be taking effect. Why isn't she dead yet? "Ethan Blackwood, don't you dare slander me. You and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. You have no right to interfere in my life." Summer glared at Ethan, her usually gentle eyes blazing. This man, she had been foolish before, but she would never have any expectations of him again. "Woman, you're getting bold. What, you think you have someone to back you up now? You want to run off with this man? Dream on." Ethan's usually calm eyes were now burning with flames. He strode over to Summer, grabbed her arm forcefully, and tried to drag her away. "Come with me, go back to your room. The psychiatric hospital is where you belong." His voice was full of disdain. Simon quickly grabbed Ethan's arm, staring at him with disgust. "Ethan Blackwood, what are you doing? Can't you see you're hurting Summer? She's sick right now. Let her go. Do you have any humanity at all?" Only then did Ethan notice the unnatural flush on Summer's face and her shaky posture. The hand gripping her arm unconsciously loosened a bit. Simon seized the opportunity to pull Summer away and put his arm around her shoulder. He felt how much thinner she had become, and his heart filled with pity and pain. He looked at Ethan with even more impatience and indignation. "Ethan Blackwood, I thought you would bring Summer happiness. Look what you've done. Wasn't abandoning her enough? You had to have her committed to a psychiatric hospital. She's not mentally ill. You people are monsters. Simon, I didn't want to say this. Even though my sister has done wrong, she's still the innocent, kind sister I remember," Jean said, looking at Ethan and Simon as if she were hiding some painful secret. But her tone quickly turned venomous. "Do you have any idea that the sister you're so protective of, Summer, is carrying a child that isn't Ethan's? She even attacked someone. My sister. She's changed. I can't believe it either, but it's the truth. Sister, let's go back to the hospital and get you treated, okay? I believe that with treatment, you'll get better. You'll be the same gentle, kind sister you used to be." Jean looked at Summer with a face full of concern, her words dripping with sympathy, but her eyes reflected hatred and glee. "Summer is carrying my child. She is the mother of my child, and from now on, I will protect her. I'm taking her away now. You will not control her any longer." Simon, looking at Jean's pathetic act, felt that if Summer stayed with these hypocrites any longer, it would be psychological torture, especially with her high fever. He put his arm around Summer and strode away. Jean watched them leave, her eyes filled with hatred and resentment. Summer can't just leave like this. She turned to look at Ethan, her expression immediately changing to one of concern and helplessness. "Ethan, what should we do? My sister was just taken away like that. How will she ever get better? I'm so worried." "Jean, you're too kind. She hurt you and you're still so concerned about her. Don't worry about her problems. You just need to stay happy and get ready to be the most beautiful bride," Ethan said comfortingly, his eyes, as he looked at Jean, filled with deep affection. Jean was momentarily lost in his tender gaze and leaned shyly against his chest. Softly, she said, "Ethan, I'll do whatever you say." But Ethan wasn't looking at the woman in his arms. His gaze was fixed on the direction Summer and Simon had gone, his deep eyes thoughtful. "Jean, let's go take our wedding photos now. Don't think about these unhappy things," Ethan said, stroking Jean's hair with feigned affection. "Okay," Jean nodded, her face beaming with happiness. Being pampered by Ethan felt so wonderful. It made everything she had done worthwhile. "Ethan, in the end, is mine. Designer bridal salon. "Miss Sullivan, you have such a perfect figure and your skin is so firm. This mermaid-style wedding dress is perfect for you. You look absolutely stunning," the sales associates gushed, surrounding Jean. "Oh, you're all exaggerating." "I'm not that great," Jean said modestly, but her eyes were filled with pride and confidence. "How amazed will Ethan be when he sees me in this?" But the thought of Summer and Leo cast a shadow over her heart. They were like two fish bones stuck in her throat, not a major threat, but they pricked at her good mood from time to time. "You can all leave now. I need to touch up my makeup before I see Ethan." The sales associates giggled, thinking she was nervous about seeing the groom, and quickly left, giving the bride some time to compose herself. Once they were gone, Jean took her phone out of her purse on the vanity and made a call. "Steal that little bastard Summer gave birth to from the nurse. The surveillance system is already down, so no one will know. I'll give you a handsome reward afterward. Get it done cleanly." The beautiful bride, reflected in the mirror, now looked manic and evil. But there was no one to see it but the mirror itself. "Summer, don't blame me. Every man for himself. I just want to ensure my future happiness is free of any obstacles." Looking at her beautiful reflection, Jean smiled with satisfaction. A bride should be carefree. After touching up her makeup, she gracefully left the room. Outside, the handsome Ethan, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, was waiting for her. The look of awe in his eyes was the best compliment she could have asked for. "Jean, you look beautiful," Ethan said, not hesitating to praise her in front of everyone. Jean lowered her head shyly, her eyes shining with pride. Blackwood Group. Ethan looked at the documents in his hand, his deep eyes like bottomless pools of stars. It was time to act. He had waited long enough. Knock, knock, knock. "Come in." "Mr. Blackwood, the hotel called. They need to confirm the menu for the upcoming wedding banquet. Would you like to take a look?" It was Ethan's assistant, Julian. "Whatever, you decide," Ethan said without looking up. "Very well, Mr. Blackwood, I'll take care of it," Julian said, preparing to leave. "Julian, wait, we're moving the plan up." "We start now," Ethan said, suddenly looking up, his eyes shining with determination. It was finally time to reel in the fish. "Mr. Blackwood now? Isn't that a bit sooner than we planned?" Julian asked, confused. "The time is right. I can't wait any longer. It's time to lure the snake out of its hole." "Let's get this over with quickly," Ethan said firmly. If one looked closely, there was a faint smile in his eyes. People's Hospital ward. Summer slowly woke up, the strong smell of disinfectant filling her nostrils. "Am I in the hospital?" Her consciousness gradually returned. She had a cold and a fever, and Simon had brought her to the hospital. She touched her forehead. The fever seemed to have broken. "Summer, you're awake, that's great," Simon's voice said, full of relief. "Simon, how long was I asleep?" Summer asked, sitting up slowly. "You've been asleep for a day and a night. Your fever was very high, but thankfully it's gone down now," Simon said, his eyes full of pity. "That long? Simon, where's Leo? I want to see him." Thinking of her son, whom she hadn't seen for a day, Summer grew anxious. He must be feeling unsettled, and she hadn't been able to feed him. "Summer, I've arranged for a professional nurse to look after Leo, so you don't have to worry. They are very experienced with children. You need to focus on getting better so you can take good care of him," Simon said gently, draping a coat over her shoulders. Looking at Simon's exhausted face and the dark circles under his eyes, Summer felt a pang of guilt. He must be so tired from taking care of her. "Simon, I'm so much trouble for you. Thank you for taking care of me and my son. I don't know how I can ever repay you," Summer said with deep gratitude. "Summer, you don't have to be so formal with me. From now on, don't say thank you," Simon said, looking at her gently, his eyes flowing with deep affection. Ring, ring, ring. Just as Summer was trying to find the right words, the phone rang. "Mr. Vance, it's terrible. I just went to the restroom, and when I came back, Leo was gone. I've looked everywhere, but I can't find him. What should I do?" The nurse's panicked voice came through the phone. "What did you say? Have you notified the hospital? Have you checked the surveillance footage?" Simon's heart sank, his hand holding the phone began to tremble. "The hospital knows, but the surveillance system has been broken for a few days," the nurse said, her voice on the verge of tears, clearly at her wit's end. "Simon, what's going on? Did the nurse say Leo is missing? How could this happen?" Summer asked in a panic, her voice trembling. Hearing the fragmented conversation and Simon's mention of the broken surveillance system, Summer had already guessed the worst. Simon couldn't bring himself to look at her. How could he tell her? He had just gotten her out and now the baby was gone. He had failed her. Summer, Leo is missing. The surveillance system at the psychiatric hospital is broken too, Simon said, closing his eyes in pain. No, how could this be? My Leo, what am I going to do? Hearing Simon's words, Summer's last hope crumbled. Why was this happening? Leo must be so scared. Summer, calm down, we'll figure something out. We will find him, Simon tried to comfort her. I can't calm down the thought of Leo out there somewhere, not knowing if he's warm or fed. My heart feels like it's being stabbed over and over again. Summer pressed a hand to her chest, feeling like she couldn't breathe. There was a huge void inside her, swallowing her soul. Summer, for your son's sake, you have to be strong. We'll go look for him now. You can't fall apart. Simon's words snapped her back to reality. That's right. She was a mother now. For her child, she had to be strong. She couldn't give up. Summer nodded, her eyes filled with determination and resolve. I'll have someone check the hospital's surveillance footage right now to see what happened. We'll go to the psychiatric hospital and ask around. Maybe there's a new lead, Simon suggested. Okay, let's go now. Simon and Summer hurried out. Thinking of Ethan's connections, Summer suggested calling him for help. He was the baby's father. He should take responsibility. Simon, I think I should call Ethan Blackwood and ask him to help find Leo. Summer, don't. You'll only be humiliating yourself. The paternity test showed Leo isn't his son. He won't care about him. He might even gloat, Simon advised. That's right. Summer laughed at herself. Ethan had never acknowledged Leo as his son. He thought he was the product of her infidelity. Why would he help? It was all her own wishful thinking. But if Leo wasn't Ethan's son, whose could he be? She had only ever been with Ethan, never anyone else. But what about the test results? Was fate playing a cruel joke on her? Poor Leo, born without a father. My Leo, wait for mommy. I will find you. You may not have a father, but you have a mother, and I will love you more than anyone. Leo, you have to be okay. The Sullivan Villa. In the opulent living room of the Sullivan home, laughter and cheerful chatter filled the air. Ethan, Jean, her father Gregory, and her mother Melinda were enjoying a pleasant family dinner. Ethan, you must try this steamed sea bass. Jean made it herself. She practiced for 2 weeks to make it for you, nearly burned down the kitchen, but now it's finally perfect. Melinda enthusiastically introduced the dish to Ethan. The more she looked at the distinguished young man, the more she liked him. Only someone like him was worthy of her daughter. That girl Summer could never compare. Mom, why would you say that it wasn't that dramatic? Dad, say something? Jean lowered her head shyly, looking charmingly coy. Ethan, my daughter is wonderful in every way but her cooking skills. Well, they still need some improvement. Gregory laughed heartily at the happy family scene. This is what a family should be like. The thought of his estranged older daughter, Summer, cast a brief shadow over his heart. That child had always been difficult, and now she had brought such disgrace upon them. Jean was so much more likable. Dad, you too? You're ganging up on me with Mom. I won't have it, Jean pouted playfully. Jean, your parents are just saying that because they care about you, Ethan said, looking at Jean with a doting expression that left Gregory and Melinda feeling completely satisfied. Ring, ring, ring. The warm atmosphere was interrupted by a phone call. Hello, what is it? I'm in the middle of dinner, Ethan said, sounding annoyed by the interruption. Mr. Blackwood, I'm so sorry to bother you. There's a problem at the company. The stock price has plummeted. We need you to come back and take charge. Julian's urgent voice came through the phone. The stock price plummeted? What happened? I'm on my way back. Ethan's deep eyes narrowed, his expression turning serious. Ethan, is something wrong with the company? Jean asked, her face full of concern. Jean, Mr. And Mrs. Sullivan, I apologize. Something has come up at the company, and I need to go back and handle it. Thank you for your wonderful hospitality. I'll make it up to you next time. I must be going now. With that, Ethan stood up and hurried away, leaving the Sullivan family staring after him in confusion. After hastily leaving the Sullivan villa, Ethan found a secluded corner. Looking around to make sure no one was there, he quickly dialed a number. What happened? Explain everything. Ethan's voice was low and hoarse, but it carried an undeniable authority. The baby is missing from the hospital. The surveillance system is broken. We haven't been able to trace his whereabouts yet, an uncertain voice replied. Shit, I'm going to the hospital now. After hanging up, Ethan glanced back at the Sullivan villa, his eyes sharp and menacing. Then he sped off, racing down the highway, a flicker of regret crossing his mind for the first time. Was my decision really the right one? Psychiatric hospital. Nurse Chen, the nurse Simon had hired to look after Leo, was pacing anxiously at the entrance of the psychiatric hospital, waiting for Simon and Summer to arrive. Finally, two familiar figures appeared, and she hurried to meet them. Mr. Vance, Miss Sullivan, you're finally here, she said, her voice filled with anxiety. Nurse Chen, tell us exactly what happened. Did you see anyone unusual or suspicious coming or going? Simon asked urgently. I had just fed Leo his formula and put him to sleep. I placed him in his crib and went to the restroom. I even locked the door. The hallway was empty. You know how quiet it is here at the hospital. I locked the door, so I thought everything would be fine, but when I came back, the door was open with no signs of being forced. Leo was gone. Nothing else was missing. I looked everywhere and asked the other nurses, but no one saw anything. I also asked about the surveillance footage, but it turns out it broke just a few days ago. Mr. Vance, I really didn't mean for this to happen. I was only in the restroom for a few minutes, less than 10, I swear. I never expected this. I'm so sorry. Nurse Chen's voice was choked with tears, clearly feeling both guilty and scared about the missing child. Nurse Chen, you said the door wasn't forced open, is that right? Simon immediately seized on the key detail. Yes, the door was perfectly fine, not even a scratch. If someone had forced it open, there would have been some noise, Nurse Chen replied quickly. Simon, if the door wasn't forced, does that mean someone had a key? And how could the surveillance system be broken? What's going on? Summer asked, her anxiety growing. Summer, let's go talk to the director about the surveillance system. Maybe there are still some clues. It's unlikely that it was completely down without recording anything. There must be some trace. Seeing the worry on Summer's face, Simon tried to comfort her, though he knew he was clutching at straws. They quickly found the hospital director and explained the situation. The director, already aware of the incident, brought them to see the surveillance footage. The specialist Simon had brought along began to work on the system. Mr. Vance, the surveillance system is indeed broken. It can't be repaired. The footage from the past few days is completely gone. This isn't a technical issue we can solve, the specialist reported grimly. No surveillance footage, and the kidnapper likely had a key to the room. Does that mean it was an inside job? Simon voiced the suspicion that had been nagging at him. Besides the patient's key, the only other keys are in the nurse's station. But at that time, there were at least 2 nurses on duty. After the incident, I questioned them, and they can all vouch for each other. So we're at a dead end there too. The director said dejectedly, offered a few apologies and left. How could this be? All the leads were gone. Summer felt dizzy. If she had held onto a sliver of hope before, it was now gone. Her heart felt hollow, as if her entire being had been emptied. She had nothing left but Leo, and now he was gone too. Why was fate so cruel to her? Was she not meant to be in this world? Her birth had cost her mother her life, and now she couldn't even protect her own child. She deserved to die. Just as she was about to collapse, Simon, who had been watching her grow paler and paler, caught her. Summer, you have to hold on. I will find your son. Don't give up, Simon said softly, trying to comfort her. Suddenly, Ethan appeared, striding over in a rage and grabbing Summer by the neck. Summer, you bitch, were you so busy flirting with this man that you didn't even notice your child was gone? How could you be so careless? Ethan's voice was filled with contempt and resentment. Cough, cough. Ethan Blackwood, are you finally admitting that Leo is your son? Summer, nearly choking, didn't beg for mercy. She just looked at him with defeated eyes. Ha, as if, but without Leo, how can I keep you around? How can I torture you? Ethan said with a cold laugh, as if he had heard a joke. Ethan Blackwood, let her go, you pervert. Doesn't your conscience hurt at all, torturing Summer like this? Simon, enraged, tried to pull Ethan off her. Looking at this demonic man, Simon wished he could pry open his head and see what he was thinking. Simon Vance, who do you think you are? What right do you have to interfere in our business? Get out of my way, Ethan said, shaking Simon off, his cold, dark eyes fixed on him. Ethan Blackwood, I'm nothing and you're even less than nothing. With that, Simon threw a punch. Ethan, caught off guard, took the full force of the blow. But he immediately retaliated, and the two men began to brawl. "Stop it, both of you. Stop, this is a hospital, not a place for fighting, let go." Seeing the two men fighting, Summer didn't know what to do. She tried to pull them apart, hoping they would stop. But Ethan and Simon paid no attention, continuing to fight. In the scuffle, one of them accidentally pushed Summer. Already weakened by her illness and the emotional turmoil of losing her child, Summer collapsed. Simon cried out, seeing her fall, and reached out to catch her. But Ethan was faster. He swept her up in his arms and rushed out. "Ethan Blackwood, what do you think you're doing? Do you still want to torture her, even in this state?" "I'll call the police," Simon shouted, running after them and grabbing Ethan's arm. "Simon Vance, where do you think I'm going? I'm taking her to the hospital. I need to torture her for a long time, and I can't have her dying on me just yet," Ethan said, looking at Simon with a face full of malice. "Take my car, I'll drive. You take care of Summer." Seeing how pale Summer was, Simon relented. This was not the time to argue. Getting her to the hospital was the most important thing. Focused on driving, Simon didn't notice the unprecedented tension in the way Ethan was looking at Summer in the back seat. Ethan looked at Summer's brow, furrowed in pain, and gently tried to smooth it with his hand, but it wouldn't uncrease. He then realized her forehead was burning hot. "Simon Vance, why is her forehead so hot? I'm not done torturing her yet. She can't die on me now," Ethan asked fiercely. "Ethan Blackwood, you demon, you have the audacity to ask? This is all your fault," Simon, still driving, retorted, looking at him in the rearview mirror. "Simon Vance, this woman got this sick while she was with you. Don't blame everything on me." Ethan sneered, his already dark eyes growing colder. "Ethan Blackwood, Summer is like this because she didn't get proper care after giving birth. That's when a woman needs the most care, but how did you treat her? Not only did you not take care of her, you caused her to hemorrhage. You, the person she should have trusted most, repeatedly slandered her, took her child, and had her committed to a psychiatric hospital. She has been sick not only physically, but also mentally. It's a miracle she has held on this long. How could she not be sick? This is all your fault." Simon, forgetting he was driving, raised his voice in condemnation. "Simon Vance, what do you know? Shut up. When we get to the hospital, you can get lost." Ethan was completely unmoved by his words, feeling no guilt for what he had done to Summer. Instead, he shouted angrily, as if he had no heart. Simon looked at the demonic Ethan, wanting to beat him up, but a glance at the unconscious Summer made him hold back. The most important thing now was to get Summer to a doctor. He couldn't let Ethan delay her treatment. He stepped on the gas, racing towards the hospital, People's Hospital. Finally at the hospital, Ethan rushed in with Summer in his arms. Simon quickly parked the car and followed. A doctor came to examine Summer. Simon watched nervously, occasionally wiping the sweat from her brow with a handkerchief. "I'm cold, so cold." Summer began to shiver, muttering in her sleep. Simon's heart ached. He quickly got a blanket and covered her. Ethan frowned and walked out. He found a quiet corner and took out his phone. "Liu Chuan, get your men to find Leo immediately. I don't care if you have to tear this city apart, find him. Let me know the moment you have any news," Ethan said, his voice full of authority. "Yes, Mr. Blackwood," Liu Chuan replied, immediately getting to work with his team. After hanging up, Ethan returned to the room to find the doctor still examining Summer. His frown deepened. "Doctor, how is Summer? She just broke her fever. How could she have such a high fever again?" Simon, worried, couldn't help but ask. "Miss Sullivan's condition is very strange. It's unusual for an adult to have a high fever so soon after breaking one. We can't identify the problem right now, but these recurring fevers are very hard on the patient." The doctor, unable to find a cause, could only report the facts. "How could this be? Doctor, please give her a full body examination. We need to find out what's wrong," Simon said anxiously. "Yes, for now, all we can do is run some tests and see what the results show," the doctor replied helplessly. "Simon Vance, you can leave now. This has nothing to do with you," Ethan said suddenly, his voice sharp. "Ethan Blackwood, who are you to tell me to leave? If I go, you'll just start torturing Summer again. Don't even think about it," Simon said, so angry he wanted to punch him again. "You think I can't make you leave? You'd better go on your own, or I'll have you thrown out. It won't be pretty," Ethan threatened, his deep eyes full of malice. The doctor, watching the intimidating Ethan, was too scared to say anything. He couldn't afford to offend someone like him. Just then, Jean arrived, having heard the news. That woman, who should be dead by now, still has Ethan's attention. Is he still in love with her? I will not allow it. Absolutely not. Ethan, why are you at the hospital? I heard from the staff at the psychiatric hospital that my sister is sick. Is that true? Jean asked, feigning concern, hiding the rage in her heart. Jean, you're here. This bitch is up to her old tricks again. Now she's pretending to be unconscious with a high fever, Ethan said, looking at Summer with disgust as if she were a piece of trash. Ethan, no matter what, she's still my sister. Maybe she's not pretending this time. Maybe she's really sick. We should let the doctor examine her properly. Hearing Ethan's harsh tone, Jean's heart finally settled. She continued to feign concern. Ethan's lips curled into a faint, cruel smile. Of course she'll be examined. Doctor, use whatever tests are the most painful on her. I want to see how she suffers. This bitch is tough, she won't die easily. The doctor didn't dare to breathe. These wealthy heirs could crush them with a flick of their fingers. He could only meekly wheel Summer to the examination room. Ethan Blackwood, are you human or a monster? Summer is unconscious and you still want to torture her. What does she owe you? You're a demon, Simon said, his knuckles white as he gripped the bed frame. Jean, seeing Ethan's attitude towards Summer, was no longer upset about him being at the hospital. She was happy now. Ethan is just here to torture that woman. He loves me now. Hearing her beloved being insulted, she naturally had to defend him. Simon, how can you say that about Ethan? Don't you know what my sister has done? Even though she's my sister, she can't just cheat on Ethan and do so many shameless things. Simon, when will you see her for who she really is? She's changed. She's not the person she used to be. Jean lied through her teeth, making Simon's blood boil. These people's ability to lie was truly unparalleled. Simon Vance, since Jean is here, I won't argue with you. You'd better leave now, or don't blame me for being rude, Ethan said, his deep eyes glaring at Simon, full of arrogance and malice. Ethan Blackwood, you can't make me leave. Summer is here and I'm not going anywhere. I'll fight you if I have to. Simon, unable to contain his anger, grabbed Ethan by the collar, ready to punch him. But Jean threw her arms around Ethan, and Simon had to pull back his fist. No matter how angry he was, he would never hit a woman. Jean, get out of the way. This is between us men. Ethan Blackwood, you coward. Are you going to hide behind a woman? Ethan was about to push Jean away, but she held on tight. Jean, let go, you'll get hurt. I have to teach him a lesson today. Ethan, let's just go. Since Simon and my sister are in love, let's just let them be, Jean said, looking at Ethan with hopeful eyes. Fine, have it your way. Simon Vance, for Jean's sake, I'll let you go today. You'd better watch yourself, Ethan said gently to Jean, then turned to Simon with a look of pure hatred. With that, he took Jean's hand and left the hospital. Simon had no desire to argue with them anymore. After they left, he quickly went to the examination room. Summer needed him. Ethan drove away from the hospital with Jean. Ethan, where are we going? Jean asked with a sweet smile. To my office. I have work to do, but I don't want to be away from you. Jean, will you come with me? Ethan asked gently. Hearing his sweet words, Jean's heart filled with joy. Ethan, of course I'll go with you. Anytime, she said, her voice full of happiness. Blackwood Group. As soon as Ethan and Jean arrived at his office, the company's board of directors came in. Ethan Blackwood, we trusted you to manage this company. And what happens? Look at the state of things. The stock price has plummeted. Yes, it's like you don't care about the company or our interests at all. We have the right to revoke your management authority. The directors spoke one after another, clearly not leaving until they got a satisfactory answer. The company isn't just mine. I didn't want the stock price to fall either. How can you blame it all on me? Ethan, who had never been treated this way before, said defensively. Look at you. You're the CEO. If you're not responsible, who is? If it weren't for your scandals, would the company be in this situation? Hearing Ethan's irresponsible words, the directors crowded around him, pointing fingers. Distinguished directors, you've misunderstood Ethan. He's just stressed because of the company's problems. Please, for the sake of all his hard work, forgive him this once. Please trust him. He will resolve this crisis. Jean stepped in to defend Ethan. This was the perfect opportunity to make a good impression on Ethan and the board. It would only strengthen their relationship, after they were married. Sure enough, the directors quieted down after hearing her words. Just then, the phone rang. "Mr. Blackwood, your father has had a heart attack. We're on our way to the hospital now," the butler said. "I know. I'm on my way," Ethan replied, frowning. "Distinguished directors, I will give you an explanation. My father just had a heart attack. I must go to the hospital now," Ethan said to the board. "Ethan, how could this happen? Is his condition serious?" "I'll go with you," Jean asked with concern. Ethan nodded and they left together. Hospital. Ethan's father, Theodore Blackwood, lay weakly in bed being examined by a doctor. Ethan and Jean waited outside the room. "Ethan, don't worry. Mr. Blackwood will be fine," Jean said softly. Ethan just nodded, not saying anything, his deep eyes unreadable. The doctor came out after the examination. "Doctor, how is my father?" Ethan asked. "Mr. Blackwood is stable for now, but he must avoid any stress in the future. You can go in and see him now," the doctor said before leaving. "Dad, are you feeling any better?" Ethan asked, looking at his weak father. Theodore just snorted and turned his head away, clearly displeased with his son. "How can I be fine? Look at the mess you've made. The company's stock price has plummeted," Theodore said angrily. "Dad, trust me. I'll fix it. How can I trust you? This whole mess is because of your scandals. Was that woman's summer worth it? People are saying all sorts of things. You've brought shame on our family. You'll be the death of me." "Dad, it's my fault. I was blind to have fallen in love with a woman like Summer," Ethan said calmly, his deep eyes dark as ink. "What's the use in admitting it now? It's too late. I was against it from the beginning, but you insisted on marrying her. And look what happened. What good did it do you?" Theodore said, growing more and more angry. "Dad, I've already gotten rid of that woman. I've found my true love now. Her name is Jean. She's the only one who truly cares for me." With that, Ethan took Jean's hand and brought her to his father's bedside. Hearing Ethan's words, Jean felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. That's right, she was his true love. She had loved him for so many years, and now she had finally won his heart. It was all worth it. "Mr. Blackwood, hello, I'm Jean. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Ethan from now on," Jean said, looking at Ethan with affection. "And please don't worry about the company. My father adores me. I'll ask him to help with the company's problems," Jean promised. If her father helped Ethan's company, her position in his heart would be even more secure, and she would be able to establish herself in the Blackwood family. As for that woman's Summer, judging by what she saw at the hospital, her AIDS must be progressing. Otherwise, why would she have a recurring high fever? Let her die. She wouldn't last long anyway. And that little bastard Leo was now under her control. Everything was perfect. Thinking of this, Jean's face was full of pride and triumph. "Jean, I know you're just trying to help, but we're not married yet. I can't accept help from your family. It wouldn't be right," Ethan said, his deep eyes unreadable. "Ethan, why are you being so formal with me? Our wedding date is set. We'll be a family soon. In my heart, we already are. Aren't we?" Jean said shyly. "Jean, you're too good to me. Of course, I already see you as my wife," Ethan said, looking deeply into her eyes as if he could see into her soul. Jean was lost in his affectionate gaze. Whenever he looked at her like this, she felt like the happiest person in the world. Only she, Jean Sullivan, deserved this man's love. "Ethan, since Miss Sullivan has said so, it would be rude to refuse. You're getting married soon, so your family. There's no need to be so formal between husband and wife." Theodore, seeing the situation, quickly intervened with a smile. "Ethan, see, even Mr. Blackwood agrees. What are you still hesitating about? Are you still trying to keep your distance from me?" Jean said, smiling at Ethan. "Jean, of course not. How could I? All right, I'll do as you say," Ethan said, stroking her hair affectionately. "Mr. Blackwood, you should rest. I'll take Ethan home now and ask my father to help with the company. We'll come back to see you soon," Jean said with a smile. "Good, good, you two go on," Theodore said with a cheerful laugh, "the Sullivan Villa. Ethan, here, have some fruit. It's fresh from the orchard," Melinda said with a smile, serving Ethan a plate of fruit. "Mom, look at you. As soon as Ethan comes over, you forget all about me," Jean pouted. "Gregory, look at this girl, still acting like a child. She's even getting jealous," Melinda said, laughing with her husband. "My daughter can act like a child for as long as she wants. I'll take care of her," Gregory said with a laugh. "Dad, you're the best. You have to help Ethan this time. His company's stock price has plummeted. You must have heard about it. Yes, Gregory, you have to help Ethan. We're all family now, Melinda chimed in. She was more and more pleased with Ethan. For their daughter's sake, they had to help. Ethan, I've heard about your company's situation. It's normal for young people to be a bit impulsive and face some setbacks. I made my share of mistakes when I was young. A little hardship will give you more experience, and the company will grow stronger because of it. Gregory said with a chuckle, avoiding the topic of helping directly. Jean, seeing her father dodging the issue, grew anxious. She had promised Ethan and his father that her father would help. If he didn't, what would Ethan think of her? Would he think she was unreliable? She wouldn't allow that. She had always gotten what she wanted. Dad, even if you can bear to see Ethan suffer, can you bear to see your daughter suffer? Ethan and I are getting married soon. Do you want me to start worrying about the company as soon as I'm married? Jean said, shaking her father's arm playfully. Yes, Gregory, you just said you wanted our daughter to be carefree like a child. How can you let her worry like this? You love her the most. You wouldn't want to see her like this, would you? Melinda gave Jean a look and chimed in. All right, I'll help. Of course I'll help, Gregory, swayed by his daughter's pleas, finally relented. He had always spoiled Jean and couldn't bear to see her worried. Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, Jean, I want Blackwood Group to become a subsidiary of Sullivan Corporation, Ethan said suddenly, his tone firm. Jean was stunned. How could Ethan suggest such a thing? Ethan, what are you talking about? Blackwood Group is a huge company. How can it become a subsidiary of our company? That's not fair to you, Jean said in surprise. Gregory and Melinda also looked confused, but Ethan was unfazed. He gently put his arm around Jean's shoulder and said with affection, Jean, is there any need to distinguish between you and me? What's mine is yours. Ethan, you. Jean, moved by his words, was at a loss for words, her eyes welling up with tears. Does he love me that much? Enough to give me his company? Jean, say no more. I've made up my mind. We'll be a family soon. Besides, I'm relying on my father-in-law's help now. There's no need to be so formal, Ethan said firmly. Gregory, seeing that Ethan was serious, nodded in satisfaction. It seemed Ethan truly loved Jean to be willing to give her his company. Since Ethan has said so, it's settled. I'll invest $200 million immediately, Gregory announced. Thank you, father-in-law, Ethan said with a grateful expression. The words father-in-law sounded so sweet to Jean. She looked at Ethan with affection. Dad, Ethan is being so generous, we should be too. You should give Ethan more authority. He should be involved in all the company's major projects. Jean said, playfully pleading with her father. All right, my daughter is right. I'm not that kind of person. After the investment, I'll make him the president. Are you happy now? Gregory laughed. Thank you, Dad. I knew you were the best, Jean said, overjoyed. Thank you, Dad. I'll manage the company well and won't let you down, Ethan promised. Melinda, seeing her daughter's happy face, was also delighted. The Sullivan villa was filled with laughter, and no one thought of Summer, who was lying unconscious in the hospital. Ethan, stay for dinner. You're rarely here, Melinda suggested, as it was getting late. Yes, Ethan. It's so nice to have everyone here, Gregory added, now fully approving of his future son-in-law. Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, thank you, but I need to get back to work and make Blackwood Group a subsidiary of Sullivan Corporation as soon as possible, Ethan politely declined. Ethan, just stay for dinner. Work can wait, Jean pouted. She wanted to spend more time alone with him. Jean, Ethan is going to do important work. You're about to be his wife. Stop acting like a child. Ethan, you go ahead. We'll keep Jean company here, Melinda said with a smile, tapping Jean's forehead. Jean, I'll try to spend more time with you after I'm done with work, okay? Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, I'll be leaving now, Ethan said, stroking Jean's hair as if comforting a child. Jean finally nodded in satisfaction and let him go. After leaving the Sullivan villa, Ethan's gentle expression immediately turned cold. He took out his phone and made a call. Liu Chuan, how is the search for Leo going? He asked, his voice urgent. Mr. Blackwood, the surveillance system at the psychiatric hospital was broken 2 days before Leo went missing. We haven't been able to determine if it was a coincidence or intentional. Is that lead completely dead? Have you found anything else? Ethan's grip on the railing tightened. Someone saw a suspicious person carrying a baby get into an unlicensed car at the hospital entrance, but they couldn't see their face. We checked the surveillance footage from nearby intersections, but the car quickly disappeared into an area with no cameras. Our men are still tracking it, but the area is too large, and we have no other leads for now. Liu Chuan's voice was apologetic. Shit, Ethan swore, punching the wall beside him. The rough surface tore at his skin, and his hand was instantly covered in blood, but he didn't seem to notice, as if the pain in his heart far outweighed any physical discomfort. Keep looking. Spare no expense, Ethan said through gritted teeth, his deep eyes flashing with a cold light. Whoever took Leo, I will not let them go. He quickly dialed another number. Julian, arrange for my private doctor to see Summer. Give her a full examination and let me know if there are any changes. After hanging up, Ethan's sharp eyes stared into the distance, his expression unreadable. People's Hospital. Simon stayed by Summer's side, constantly wiping her sweat and giving her water. The doctor still couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, and not all the test results were back yet. They could only provide conservative treatment. Summer drifted in and out of consciousness. Simon could only doze off by her bedside when she was asleep. He was afraid that if he left, Ethan would take her away, a thought he couldn't bear. Given her current condition, if Ethan took her and tortured her again, she wouldn't last long. Simon, where am I? Why does my head hurt so much, my Leo? Have you found him yet? Summer suddenly opened her eyes as Simon was wiping her brow. Her usually gentle, sparkling eyes were now dim from the physical and emotional torment. They only lit up when she spoke of her child, which pained Simon to see. Summer, we're still looking for the baby. Don't worry, we'll find him, Simon said patiently. How can you not have found him yet? My Leo, my child, he must be so scared. No, I have to go find him now. Hearing that her child was still missing, Summer became agitated and tried to get up. Summer, you're not strong enough to go out right now. Please rest and get better first. Then you can look for him. I'm fine now. I have to go find him now. Don't stop me. Summer pushed Simon's hand away and struggled to her feet, stumbling towards the door. But before she could reach it, she felt dizzy and was about to fall. Thankfully, Simon caught her from behind. Summer fainted again. This scene had played out several times. Whenever she woke up, she would get agitated and try to find her son, but her body was getting weaker and weaker. Simon was both heartbroken and anxious. This couldn't go on. Summer would collapse before they found the child. It was the third day. Summer's lucid moments were getting shorter and her strength was fading. Simon, gritting his teeth, took out his phone. Have you found a child that looks like the one in the photo I sent? Mr. Vance, yes, we have. Should we bring him over now? Yes, bring him to People's Hospital, Simon said with great difficulty. It was a desperate measure. Summer, please don't blame me for deceiving you. I can't just watch you waste away. The next day, when Summer woke up, she heard a baby crying. She turned her head in disbelief. A baby was lying next to her. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the baby's face, so serene and angelic. Summer struggled to sit up, her hands trembling as she picked up the child. Tears streamed down her face. Her child was finally back. Was this real? Leo, my child, you're finally back with Mommy. It's all my fault for not taking good care of you. Will you hate me? Summer said, laughing and crying at the same time. Simon, watching from the side, felt a lump in his throat. Summer, Leo is back. You have to get better now so you can take good care of him. Simon, thank you for finding Leo. You've worked so hard, Summer said gratefully, looking at the exhausted Simon. Simon, I need to breastfeed him. He must be hungry. Can you step out for a moment? Summer asked shyly. Of course, I'll be right outside. Just call me if you need anything, Simon said, happy to see some life back in her eyes, and left. After Simon left, Summer was about to unbutton her shirt to feed the baby. The door suddenly opened, and a doctor stood there with a grave expression. Don't feed him, you mustn't feed him, the doctor said in alarm. Summer looked at the doctor in surprise, not knowing what to do. Simon came in after him. Doctor, why can't Summer breastfeed the baby? Simon asked, confused. The test results are back. It's AIDS, the doctor said grimly. AIDS? How could that be? Summer felt her heart drop. Doctor, that's impossible. You must be mistaken, Simon said in shock. The doctor had to be wrong. Summer was the most chaste girl he knew. Doctor, it's impossible. I can't have AIDS, Summer said firmly. She had only ever been with Ethan. How could she have AIDS? I don't want to believe it either, but the test results are clear. The lab report is right here. You can see for yourselves. Please try to calm down. I'll have a nurse come and take the baby for testing later. Hopefully, he hasn't been infected yet, the doctor said with regret and left the room. Summer, this is impossible. Don't be scared. The test results must be wrong. We'll go to another hospital for a second opinion. Simon immediately comforted her. He would never believe that Summer had that kind of disease. She was as pure as an angel. Haha, this is good. Now I can die soon. When I'm dead, it will all be over. After a brief moment of shock, Summer became calm, as if she had been waiting for death. She had lost so much already. If fate wanted to take her life too, then so be it. Leo, are you scared? Do you want to leave with mommy? After all, I'm the only one in this world who loves you. Haha. Summer muttered to herself, laughing and crying. Simon called out to her anxiously, but she didn't seem to hear him, lost in her own world, almost delirious. Simon looked at her, his heart breaking. This angelic girl had been reduced to this state by Ethan and Jean. Did they have no conscience? Just as Simon was at a loss, a nurse came in. Miss Sullivan, we need to take the baby for testing now. Please rest for a while. Can you give me the baby? The nurse asked gently, feeling sorry for her. No, I won't give my baby to anyone. He's all I have left. You can't take him from me. No one can, Summer said, clutching the baby tightly, like a she-wolf protecting her cub. Miss Sullivan, we have to take the baby for testing as soon as possible, the nurse said, looking at Simon for help. Simon had no choice but to try and hold Summer back. Just as the nurse was about to take the baby, Summer, with a surprising burst of strength, broke free from Simon and grabbed the baby's arm. She suddenly noticed that the baby had no birthmark on his wrist. How could that be? Leo had a large birthmark on his wrist since birth. No, this isn't my baby. This baby doesn't have a birthmark on his wrist. Where did you take my baby? You're all bad people. Summer was on the verge of a breakdown. This wasn't her Leo. Where was he? Seeing her like this, Simon was also heartbroken. He had to confess. Summer, I'm sorry. We haven't found Leo yet. I was so worried about you that I found a baby who looks like him. How could this be? Where is my child? No, I have to find him. You're all liars, liars. Hearing that her child was still missing, Summer completely broke down, crying and shouting. She stood up and rushed towards the door. Simon quickly grabbed her, but she kicked and hit him, completely losing control. Several nurses had to help restrain her, but she was still kicking and screaming, her expression growing more and more frantic. Finally, they had to give her a sedative, and she finally calmed down. Simon and the nurses helped her back to bed. The nurses left, shaking their heads. Simon wiped the tear stains from her face, his heart full of sorrow. Summer, please get better. It's too painful to see you like this. The Sullivan Villa. Miss Sullivan, we have confirmation that Miss Summer has AIDS. And because he couldn't find the baby, Simon Vance brought a look-alike to her. When she found out, she had a mental breakdown and is now acting erratically. Good, I understand. You've done well, I'll wire the money to your account. After hanging up, a strange smile spread across Jean's face. She couldn't hide her joy. What's making my daughter so happy? Melinda asked with a smile. Jean looked around, and seeing no one, she closed the door and sat down next to her mother. Mom, that bitch Summer has been diagnosed with AIDS, haha. Really? That's wonderful, you have nothing to worry about anymore. You can just be happy with Ethan, Melinda said, also beaming with joy, showing no remorse for what they had done to Summer. Mom, I'm so happy. Everything is going so smoothly. Mom, let's have some red wine to celebrate. In the dining room, Jean and Melinda raised their wine glasses, their faces flushed with triumph. Their distorted reflections in the wine glasses looked even more grotesque. The next day, Jean, hiding her overflowing joy, went to Ethan's office. Jean, what are you doing here? Did you miss me? Ethan asked gently, standing up to greet her. Ethan, I have some bad news for you, Jean said, her face on the verge of tears. Jean, what's wrong? Tell me, Ethan said, taking her hand and comforting her. Ethan, I heard from the hospital that my sister has been diagnosed with AIDS. She's so pitiful. Even though she's done a lot of wrong, a punishment like AIDS is too cruel. Jean said, her face full of concern, as if she were genuinely worried about Summer. AIDS? Ethan frowned, a hint of surprise in his voice. Yes, I can't believe it either. How could my sister get such a disease? I'm so scared. Ethan, shouldn't you get tested too? Jean said, looking at Ethan with a worried expression. What, are you afraid I've been infected too? Ethan asked, not showing any panic, his gaze on her unreadable. Jean felt a little unnerved by his deep gaze, as if he knew something. But that was impossible. She was just overthinking it. Ethan, no, of course not. You couldn't be infected. I'm just worried about you. My sister must have gotten AIDS from sleeping around with other men. You would never. Ethan just nodded, not saying anything more, as if he didn't want to continue the conversation. Ethan, you should get back to work. I'll go now, Jean said, seeing that he wasn't concerned and afraid he might see through her. The Sullivan villa. After leaving Ethan's office, Jean went straight home. Lying on her soft, large bed, the thought of Summer dying a painful, shameful death and Ethan's indifferent reaction to her illness made her giddy with joy. She rolled around on the bed a few times to contain her excitement, then decided to call her friends and go out to a bar to celebrate. Suddenly, her phone rang. Jean, it's Simon Vance. I need to talk to you. Come out. I'm at the 0 Point Cafe near your house. Simon's cold voice came through the phone. I'm not coming out. You were so rude to Ethan, you even hit him. I have nothing to say to you, Jean said coldly, about to hang up. Jean, do you want me to come to your house? It wouldn't be good for you if your father found out about certain things, Simon said angrily. Fine, I'll come out. This had better be important, Jean said coldly. Although her father didn't particularly like Summer, she was still his daughter. It would be troublesome if he found out about certain things. Jean had no choice but to get ready and go to the cafe. At the cafe, Jean found Simon sitting by the window. Simon Vance, if you have something to say it quickly. I have other plans, Jean said, her displeasure obvious. Jean, I just came to remind you of something. After I'm done, I'll leave. I have no desire to talk to you either. Summer has been diagnosed with AIDS, Simon said grimly. So, she has AIDS. Why are you telling me? I warned you my sister is not as pure as she seems. Her private life is a mess. Otherwise, how could she get AIDS? Now do you believe me? Jean said, as if enjoying a good show. Jean, Summer is your sister. How can you still slander her like this? Simon said, looking at her in disbelief. Slander her? She got AIDS herself. I suggest you go get tested too, see if you're infected. After all, you two have a child together, Jean said impatiently. Jean, do you have a heart? You know what kind of person Summer is. How could she have a child with me? Leo is Summer and Ethan's child. I only said that to protect her, Simon said angrily, looking at Jean. Jean had grown up with Summer. How could she not know what kind of person she was? For a man, she was willing to slander her own sister. How is that possible? Even if Summer's child isn't yours, it's someone else's, Jean said, a little flustered. How could Leo be Ethan's child? Summer has only ever been with Ethan. How could the child be someone else's? I came to remind you that Ethan might also be infected with AIDS. He should get tested immediately. Impossible. Ethan definitely doesn't have AIDS. Summer must have gotten it from someone else. You should leave now, Jean said calmly, her eyes showing no sign of panic. Simon noticed her unusual calmness. Jean knew Summer better than anyone. If he told her the child was Ethan's, then the chances of Ethan being infected were very high. Given how much Jean cared about Ethan, she should be worried and scared. Her calmness could only mean one thing. Jean, did you have something to do with Summer getting AIDS? Simon asked angrily. Don't be ridiculous. I think you've spent too much time with Summer. You're going crazy too, Jean said, her calm expression finally cracking as she grew angry. Jean, your reaction says it all. You know what you did. How could you be so cruel? Simon was so angry he wanted to rip open her chest and see if her heart was black. You must be crazy, Jean said, seeing Simon's dark expression, and quickly got up and left the cafe. As she hurried down the street, Simon's words, "The child is Ethan's," echoed in her mind. How could that be? The child is definitely not Ethan's. I will not allow it. Ethan's child can only be born by me, Jean Sullivan. Thinking of the child, she quickly took out her phone. How is that little bastard Leo? Jean said through gritted teeth. We have him in a remote location. Miss Sullivan, what should we do with him? Should we get rid of him now? Just keep him there for now. I'm getting married soon. I don't want to kill anyone before my wedding. We'll deal with him after. Jean hesitated for a moment. Although she wanted to strangle the bastard right now, her dream wedding shouldn't be tainted with blood. Let him live a few more days. Ethan, don't blame me for killing your son. The child of that bitch Summer is not worthy of being your son. I will give you 12 children in the future. Ethan's office. Ethan, you haven't eaten again, have you? I'm so worried about you when you don't take care of yourself, Jean said in a sweet voice. Jean, you're here. I'm sorry I can't spend more time with you. I don't mind. Ethan, look, I brought you your favorite abalone porridge from that restaurant you love. Please eat some. Jean, you're too good to me. I'll eat it now. Ethan, you don't have to work so hard. It pains me to see you like this, Jean said, coming over to massage his temples. But Ethan turned and took her hand, pulling her into his lap, making her blush. Jean, I'm not tired. This is nothing compared to our future. Since your father has helped me, I have to repay his kindness by doing more for him. I'm happy to do it, Ethan said with deep affection. Ethan, you should eat now. After you're done, I'll leave so I don't disturb your work, Jean said with a happy heart. After Ethan finished eating, Jean thoughtfully cleaned up and gracefully left. Watching her leave, Ethan's expression was no longer affectionate and gentle, but icy cold. Suddenly, a message popped up on his computer, a dense data report. Ethan looked at it, and a smile played on his lips. It was finally time to reel in the net. He had waited too long, the Sullivan villa. After a sleepless night, Jean was still bothered by the thought that the child might be Ethan's. She couldn't accept that Ethan was the father of another woman's child. In the morning, after her father left for work, Jean went to Melinda's bedroom. Jean, why are you up so early? You should get more sleep. You're about to be a bride. You need your beauty sleep, Melinda said with a smile. Mom, I found out something yesterday, and I'm so unhappy I can't even sleep, Jean pouted. What? Who made my baby girl unhappy? I'll go teach them a lesson. Melinda's smiling face immediately turned fierce. Mom, Simon Vance came to see me yesterday. He told me that little bastard Leo is Ethan's child. Jean's voice was full of venom. So that's it. I never doubted that Leo was Ethan's child, Melinda said calmly. Mom, why would you think that? Jean asked in surprise. Summer is your father's daughter. I know what kind of person she is. How could she be with another man? Melinda said with a composed expression. But Ethan has always thought the child was someone else's, which is why he treated her so badly, Jean said, a little flustered. I know what kind of person Summer is, but she can't make waves in this family. It all depends on how you handle it. So what if Leo is Ethan's child? Jean, you're about to be Ethan's wife. What are you afraid of? I can't accept it. I can't accept it. Ethan's child can only be born by me. Jean's face was twisted with rage. That little bastard is in your hands now. After your wedding, you can do whatever you want with him. Ethan will never know he's his child. Right? My dear daughter, don't think about it anymore. Just get ready to be a beautiful bride, Melinda advised. Mom, I'll go now, Jean said, leaving and returning to her room. Melinda watched her daughter's back, her gentle smile slowly fading. My daughter, no one will ruin your happiness. I will always be here to support you. People's Hospital. After Melinda's reassurance, Jean felt a little better, but she still decided to torment Summer before she died. How dare she give birth to Ethan's child and cause her so much grief? She wouldn't let her get away with it. She would kindly tell that bitch the truth so she could die in peace. Thinking of that pesky Simon who never left Summer's side, Jean came up with a plan. She deliberately leaked some false information about Leo to lure him out of the hospital. Then she went to the hospital herself. She couldn't have that eyesore around today. Jean carefully put on a hazmat suit. After all, Summer had AIDS. Dressed in her protective gear, she walked into Summer's room with a triumphant air. Summer was lying quietly in bed. She was even thinner now, her white hospital gown making her look as fragile as a feather, about to be blown away by the wind. Summer suddenly opened her eyes. When she saw Jean, she seemed dazed at first. But when she recognized her, her once lifeless eyes filled with hatred. Summer, my dear sister, what's the use of looking at me like that? Look at you now. You can't do anything but wait to die, Jean said with a smirk. But Summer didn't want to talk to her, didn't want to look at that smiling, demonic face. She turned to look out the window, where the scent of flowers drifted in. How long had it been since she had seen flowers? Too long. All she wanted now was to leave. Heaven must have lots of flowers. What, you don't deign to speak to me? What if I told you that Leo is Ethan Blackwood's child? Can you still pretend to be so calm? Jean said with a strange smile. She wanted to see if this dying woman could still maintain her composure after hearing this news. "What did you say? How do you know?" Jean's words finally got Summer's attention. She asked in surprise. "Haha, you didn't know, did you? Simon actually did a paternity test between Leo and Ethan. They are indeed father and son, but he never told you," Jean said, stroking her hair, looking alluring. "Impossible. Simon wouldn't lie to me," Summer's heart sank. Was Simon also in on this with them? Was there anything true in this world? "You're too confident. Simon told me himself. He couldn't hide it anymore after you got AIDS, so he finally confessed." Jean looked at Summer with satisfaction. She wanted to watch this woman's mental defenses crumble, to see her shed that calm facade. How satisfying. "And I have something even more interesting for you. Not only do I know the child is Ethan's, I also know where the little bastard is now. What a pity, I'm not going to tell you," Jean said with a giggle, as if telling a joke, but her words were so cruel. "Jean, you vicious woman, what have you done to Leo?" Summer screamed. "He's just a bastard anyway. After my wedding tomorrow, I'll have someone throw him on a mountain to be eaten by wolves. Haha, that way you two can be together in the afterlife. Aren't I so kind?" Jean laughed maniacally. Summer's eyes turned red with rage, her head about to explode. Her poor son, he was so small. She had only one thought now. She had to kill her, kill her. "Jean, you will die a horrible death." Summer lunged at Jean, hitting her with all her might. Jean, caught off guard by the sudden attack, was pushed to the ground. Summer straddled her, hitting her again and again. She had to kill this vicious woman to avenge Leo. She bit down hard on Jean, wanting to tear her flesh and drink her blood to see if it was black. Jean was terrified. Summer was biting her. She had AIDS. If she got infected, she would die. "Help, help, murder," Jean screamed, forgetting all about her carefully cultivated ladylike image. Hearing her cries for help, medical staff rushed in, only to find Summer and Jean locked in a desperate struggle. They carefully tried to pull Summer off, but her rage had given her an incredible strength. They couldn't separate them. And since Summer had AIDS, they were afraid of using too much force and making her even more frantic. They could only watch as Summer continued to beat Jean. Just as they were at a loss, the door opened, and a tall, handsome man walked in. It was Ethan. As soon as he entered, he saw the frantic Summer beating the disheveled Jean. His heart ached. Summer had always been so quiet, so accepting of the unfair treatment she received at home. To see her like this, she must be in unimaginable pain. And he was one of the people who had caused her so much pain. Even if he had no choice, this was the last thing he wanted to see. But the damage was done. He gently pulled Summer up. Looking at her disheveled clothes and hair, his hands trembled with pain as he carefully straightened them, his expression focused and gentle. Summer, still in a daze, tried to go after Jean again, her body tense. "Summer, it's okay, it's okay. It's all over now," Ethan said, holding her and gently stroking her back, his voice as soft as if he were comforting a child. Summer looked at him blankly. Was this Ethan? What was he doing? Was he pitying her because she was about to die? Or was this not Ethan at all, but a figment of her imagination? She was more confused than ever. Jean was stunned to see Ethan holding Summer. Why was he comforting her? Was he just trying to calm the crazy woman down so he could rescue her? But why hadn't he even looked at her since he came in? This was not part of the act. She began to panic. "Ethan, what's wrong?" "Summer bit me. What if I get AIDS too?" Jean said, pulling at Ethan's clothes, trying to sound pitiful. But Ethan didn't react as she expected. He didn't even move. He just gave her a cold, contemptuous look and said, "Shouldn't you know better than anyone? If you get AIDS, it's because you gave it to yourself." Jean was frozen by his icy gaze, his words making no sense to her. What did he mean? "Ethan, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Why are you still holding that crazy woman? Don't you care about me?" Jean asked, still not giving up. Why had everything gone so wrong? "Jean, what am I talking about? Shouldn't you know best? Didn't you arrange for someone to intentionally infect Summer with AIDS? Now that she's bitten you, isn't it you who has given yourself AIDS?" Ethan said coldly, his eyes full of undisguised anger and contempt. Looking at his expression, Jean felt a wave of despair. His previous gentleness and affection had been replaced by a cold, ruthless cruelty. It was like falling into an abyss. And the AIDS plot, how did he know? It was impossible. How could he know? "Ethan, you must be mistaken. Someone must be slandering me. I don't know what you're talking about," Jean denied, but her trembling voice betrayed her panic. What? I got AIDS because of this woman? This woman, her own sister. Why, after all the years of her giving in, did she still push her to this point, not only slandering her, but also trying to kill her and Leo? The last thread of sanity in Summer's mind snapped. She grabbed a medicine bottle from a nurse's hand and threw it at Jean, again and again, each blow releasing the torrent of rage inside her. Jean, caught off guard, could only kneel on the floor, covering her head and begging for mercy. Ethan watched coldly, not intervening. Summer, let it all out. Let out all your hatred, all your anger. You've been through too much. The nurses, hearing that Jean was responsible for Summer's AIDS, looked at her with contempt. Such a cruel woman deserved to be beaten. Summer finally exhausted her strength, her eyes clearing. What was the use of hating Jean now? She had AIDS. She was going to die. But Leo was still so young. He had so much potential. The most important thing now was to find him. Ethan Blackwood, I'm begging you, please save Leo. No matter what you think of me, he is your son. Jean just told me. Simon did a paternity test. Leo is your son, Summer said, looking at Ethan, her voice choked with tears. Summer, I know, don't say any more. I've already sent people to look for Leo. We'll have news soon, Ethan said, his heart breaking as he looked at her, not knowing how to comfort her. Ethan Blackwood, that evil woman Jean took Leo. She said she was going to throw him to the wolves. My Leo, what am I going to do? Thinking of Leo, Summer's sobs grew more intense, her tears flowing uncontrollably. Summer, don't cry. You're breaking my heart. I promise you I will find Leo and bring him back to you. Okay? You're so weak right now, you need to rest. Ethan gently lifted Summer into his arms and placed her on the bed. Ethan Blackwood, I can't sleep now. I have to wait for Leo. How can I sleep without seeing him? Summer said, clutching his sleeve. Summer, if you don't rest, how will you take care of Leo when he comes back? Please trust me. I will bring him back to you. Please just listen to me, Ethan said, tucking her in, his voice and expression gentler than ever before. Ethan, what's wrong with you? Why are you being so nice to this woman all of a sudden? Do you really believe that the child of this promiscuous woman is yours? Jean said, unable to believe her eyes. How could Ethan be so gentle with Summer? His gentleness should belong only to her. Was it because he believed she was responsible for Summer's AIDS? How could that be? Where did she go wrong? Her plan had been flawless and everything had been going so smoothly. Shut up. Get out. Someone get this insane woman out of here, Ethan said, looking at her with disgust. The thought of his previous pretense made him sick. To ensure the success of his plan, he had to play along with this demonic woman for so long. It still made him nauseous. But finally, it was all over. Two men in black suits appeared outside the room and started to drag Jean away. But she still couldn't believe Ethan would treat her like this. She fought back, scratching and kicking, and managed to break free and run to Ethan, hugging him tightly. But he pushed her away with disgust, his eyes cold and contemptuous, as if looking at a piece of trash. Ethan, what's wrong with you? You're acting so strangely today. It's me, Jean, your true love. You said you were going to marry me, Jean said, grabbing his sleeve, her voice full of disbelief. Ha, true love. You think I could ever truly love a vicious woman like you? Ethan's lips curled into a strange smile, as if he had heard a joke. It's because you believe I gave Summer AIDS, isn't it? Someone is slandering me. Ethan, believe me, things are not what you think. Summer is the one who has been deceiving you. Have you forgotten? Jean said, still trying to defend herself. Jean, do you really think I'm that stupid? You know what you've done. I've tolerated you for long enough. And all those things you said Summer did to deceive me, weren't they just illusions you created? Ethan glared at her. Ethan, what are you talking about? I don't understand. We're getting married. Have you forgotten we've already taken our wedding photos? Everyone knows we're getting married. You've just misunderstood me today. Let me explain, and you'll understand. Jean continued to play the victim, trying to appeal to his emotions. Married? You still think we're getting married? That's ridiculous. It seems you won't give up until you're faced with the undeniable truth. You're not worthy of talking to me. Even talking to you makes me sick. You can save your explanations for the police. Ethan shook her off with disgust, his eyes even colder and more contemptuous. Then, without another glance, he gestured to the two men in black, who dragged her out. No matter how much she struggled and shouted, it was no use. Jean wanted to find another chance to explain things to Ethan, but the two men stood guard at the door, and she couldn't get near him. The bite mark on her neck began to throb. A wave of panic washed over her. She couldn't have been infected with AIDS by that crazy woman. As long as she was alive, there was still a chance. Although Ethan was acting strangely today, she believed that if she could just find a chance to talk to him, to put on another act, he would believe her. After all, that's how she had stolen him from Summer in the first place. If it worked then, it would work now. Besides, that crazy woman Summer was about to die. Thinking of this, Jean didn't waste any time. She hurried to a doctor to get her blood tested. As long as she wasn't infected, everything would be fine. And her mother, she would help her figure something out. With that thought, Jean rushed home. Summer, hearing the conversation between Ethan and Jean, was completely bewildered. What was going on? Did Ethan finally see Jean's true colors because he found out she was responsible for her AIDS? And how did he find out? Wasn't he in love with Jean? And now, she shook her head. She didn't want to think about it, didn't want to know. All she wanted now was to find her Leo. As long as he came back to her, she would ask for nothing more. But did Ethan believe that Leo was his son? Would he really put his heart into finding him? She just didn't know. The Sullivan villa. When Jean returned home, Gregory and Melinda were shocked to see her disheveled and injured. Melinda rushed over to her, her heart aching, and was about to ask what had happened. When the doorbell rang, Melinda didn't want to answer it. All she cared about was her daughter. She wanted to clean her wounds and find out who had hurt her. She would make them pay. But the maid came running in, looking panicked. "What are you so flustered about?" Melinda snapped. "Ma'am, it's the police. There are a lot of them. You should go see," the maid said nervously. Gregory and Melinda exchanged a look and walked towards the door, confused. Before they could reach it, several police officers entered. "Gregory Sullivan, you are under arrest for suspicion of money laundering. You have the right to remain silent, but anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The police handcuffed the stunned Gregory and started to lead him away. "Why are you arresting me? Do you know who I am? I want to speak to my lawyer," Gregory shouted, but the police ignored him and continued to drag him out. "What are you doing? Why are you arresting my husband? What crime has he committed? Where are you taking him?" Melinda, recovering from her shock, grabbed Gregory's arm and shouted angrily. Jean, finally snapping out of her daze, also tried to help her mother hold onto her father. Just as they were struggling, more police officers entered. Seeing the situation, they went straight to Jean and handcuffed her. "What are you doing? Let me go," Jean screamed. What were these police officers doing? "Jean Sullivan, you are under arrest for suspicion of intentional assault, infant trafficking, and child abuse. You have the right to remain silent, but anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law," the police said, starting to lead her away. "I'm innocent, you must have made a mistake, let me go," Jean shouted in a panic. "Gregory, Jean, what's going on?" she cried, but no one answered her. Melinda didn't know what to do. She couldn't hold onto both her husband and her daughter. She tried to pull one, then the other. But she couldn't stop them. She could only watch in agony as the police took them away. "Mom, you have to help me, I don't want to go to jail," Jean cried out to her mother as she was being dragged into the car. People's Hospital. After her emotional outburst, Summer was completely drained. Even after Jean left, her body continued to tremble. Ethan, his heart aching, could only hold her and gently pat her back until she finally passed out from exhaustion. "Summer, get some rest. They will all be brought to justice," Ethan said firmly. He sat by her bedside, watching her sleep, her brow still furrowed in her dreams. His heart felt like it was being squeezed. If his plan had required him to abandon Summer, it had already torn him apart. When he found out Leo had been taken, he had felt his first pang of regret. But now, he felt like he deserved to be in the deepest circle of hell. Besides Gregory and Jean, he was the one who had hurt her the most. If she could endure the pain of being hurt by Jean, the repeated betrayals from him, the person she trusted most, were like daggers to her heart. In the sunlight, Summer's face, pale from being cooped up in the hospital, looked almost translucent. Ethan was suddenly terrified that she would just disappear, like a butterfly. He reached out to touch her face, but his hand trembled in mid-air. He couldn't bring himself to touch her. He finally pulled his hand back. He clenched his fists and took a deep breath to calm himself. He just sat there, watching her, unable to look away, as if in a trance. After a while, Summer slowly opened her eyes. The memories from before she passed out came flooding back. My child, my child. Summer, you're awake. Are you hungry? Do you want something to eat? Ethan asked, standing up, his voice cautious. I don't want to eat, I want Leo. I only want Leo, Summer said, crying. Summer, please get better. It's all my fault, my fault. I shouldn't have dragged you into my plan, Ethan said, holding her, his voice full of pain. Let me go, Ethan Blackwood. Your mood swings scare me even more. I once dreamed of having your love, but it was all a mistake. Now I don't want anything. I don't love you anymore. I won't marry you. I have to find Leo. I only want Leo. Summer beat her chest with her fists in despair, trying to ease the overwhelming pain. Summer, don't do this. You're breaking my heart. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I regret it now. I never thought it would cause you so much pain. Seeing her like this, even the proud Ethan's eyes reddened. It was all his fault. He picked her up and gently patted her back. She was so weak, her body still trembling from exhaustion, her tears flowing like a broken string of pearls, soaking his shirt. Feeling the wetness on his chest, Ethan's heart ached even more. Because of his mistakes, she must have cried all her tears. He gently placed her back on the bed. She flinched at his touch, which made him feel even more guilty. She must be so hurt that even his touch made her uncomfortable. Summer, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have let those people treat you like that. I thought I had everything under control, but things spun out of my hands, Ethan said, resting his chin on her shoulder, breathing in her scent, which brought him a little comfort. Summer stiffened at his touch, but she didn't push him away. Perhaps she was just too tired. She didn't know why he was acting like this. Was it because he found out that Jean had hurt her, so he finally saw Jean's true colors and felt guilty? She couldn't figure it out. Ethan suddenly lifted his head and leaned in to kiss her. It seemed only this could make him feel that she was really there, that she was safe. But seeing his approaching lips, feeling his familiar scent, Summer quickly turned her head away. Summer, you still hate me. You can't forgive me, can you? Ethan said, his voice choked, his eyes even redder. Don't touch me. I have AIDS. I'm disgusting, Summer said in despair. Now she even felt disgusted with herself. You fool, you don't have AIDS. Those doctors' reports were fake. You're not sick at all. Ethan's expression finally relaxed. He looked at her with affection and reached out to stroke her cheek, but she still flinched and avoided his touch. Summer, you're really not sick. I've already messed up by letting someone take our child. How could I let you get AIDS? I'm not that incompetent. Summer, please believe me, Ethan said, trying to comfort her. You don't have to comfort me. I know my own body. I've been having recurring fevers and fainting spells. I've seen the test results. Don't touch me. I don't want to hurt anyone, Summer said, tears streaming down her face. Summer, that was all a setup to fool that woman Jean. Don't you believe me? Ethan, seeing that she still didn't believe him, had to tell her the truth. Now that Gregory and Jean had been arrested, he could finally be honest with her. He reached out to touch her again, but she still looked at him with suspicion and avoided his hand. Ethan Blackwood, I don't know what you're talking about. I have nothing to ask for now. Since you've said that Leo is your child, then you believe he's your biological son, right? I only ask that for his sake, you help me find him. If Leo comes back safely, I can die in peace. Summer closed her eyes in pain, tears slowly rolling down her cheeks. As long as Ethan knew that Leo was his son, he would find him, and even without her, he would raise him well. My little Leo, Mommy can't watch you grow up. Please forgive me. Ethan watched her tears, gently wiping them away, his own tears falling as well. Summer, believe me, I will find Leo. He will be fine. I will bring him back to you, Ethan said firmly. Summer nodded. As long as Leo was safe, she wanted nothing more. Ethan held her, silently crying. He had hurt her too deeply. It was only natural that she didn't trust him. Just being able to hold her now was a blessing. The most important thing now was to find Leo. Once he was back safely, Summer would surely recover. Then, he would wait patiently for her to trust him again. Outside the room, Simon quietly watched the two of them embrace, his heart in turmoil. After being tricked by Jean's men, he had rushed back to the hospital, fearing for Summer's safety, only to find this tender scene. So Ethan loved Summer that much? The proud, arrogant Ethan could cry for her, love her enough to not care about what others thought. Love her enough to not care about AIDS, something even he couldn't do. He didn't love Summer as much as Ethan did. He really didn't. I never had a chance. Simon laughed at himself, his smile bitter and dark. He dragged his heavy feet away from the hospital. Perhaps it was time to let go of his years of obsession. Ethan watched as Summer drifted off to sleep again from exhaustion. He tucked her in and arranged for several people to watch over her, ensuring she was never alone. He couldn't let anything happen to her again. After checking the room one last time, he reluctantly left. He had a lot to take care of. Once everything was over and Leo was found, he would never leave them again. Detention center. Ethan drove straight to the detention center and arranged to meet with Gregory in an interrogation room. Gregory, in handcuffs, looked haggard. The once well-groomed man had lost all his former glory. "Ethan, what are you doing here? Are you here to see me?" Gregory asked in surprise. "I'm not here to see you. I'm here to tell you something that might help you confess," Ethan said coldly. Gregory looked at him in confusion, but before he could ask, Ethan spoke again. "I'm actually a police officer. I was on an undercover mission to investigate financial crimes. I had a personal reason for taking this mission. I've been in love with Summer since we were teenagers, and I never got over her. This was a chance to get close to her." Ethan seemed lost in thought. "How is that possible? Then why did you fall in love with Jean?" Gregory exclaimed. "That's on you, Gregory. I was investigating your financial crimes, but I found that Summer, your eldest daughter, was not welcome in her own home. As her father, you not only didn't love or trust your daughter who had lost her mother at a young age, but you favored your younger daughter, Jean. Even though Summer and I were in love, I couldn't get your trust. To complete my mission, I had to delay our wedding. To gain your trust, I had to use our newborn child to abandon Summer and get with Jean. It was the last thing I wanted to do. If you hadn't committed those crimes, none of this would have happened, and Summer wouldn't have been treated so cruelly." Ethan looked at Gregory coldly. This man, who should have been Summer's biggest support, was the cause of her suffering. How could he not hate him? "What did you say? Your child? But Leo wasn't your child. Your blood types don't match. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have treated Summer that way," Gregory said, struggling to process everything. "Of course Leo is my son. My blood type was tested as OB when I was a baby, but that was when I was sick and the test was inaccurate. Later, when I went to the police academy abroad, I found out I'm type A. So a type O child is perfectly normal." Ethan looked at Gregory with contempt. The man's first reaction was to question the blood type, which meant he had never once suspected that the test might be wrong. To be so indifferent to his own daughter was truly unbelievable. He could only imagine what a cold and lonely childhood Summer must have had. But for her to remain so kind and pure was a testament to her character. Thinking of this, Ethan's deep eyes filled with anger, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Even if there was a problem with the blood type, I would never have suspected Summer of having another man's child. I would have assumed the hospital made a mistake. I know her character better than anyone. How could she possibly have another man's child? But you, her own father, what did you do? You've known her for over 20 years. Even if you weren't family, you should have known her character. When the blood type didn't match, instead of getting a second opinion from the hospital, you treated her with such cruelty. Is that how a father should act?" Ethan's voice rose as he thought of all that Summer had been through. Hearing his words, Gregory was filled with a mix of emotions. He had indeed neglected his eldest daughter. "And do you know what kind of a monster your beloved younger daughter, Jean, is? Not only did she slander her own sister, she also arranged for someone to inject Summer with HIV-positive blood, and she didn't even spare a small child like Leo." Gregory looked at Ethan in shock. Was he telling the truth? Jean, how could she? Jean has always been so cheerful and kind. This is impossible, Gregory muttered to himself. The police have all the evidence. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. You see, what a failure of a father you are. Because you love Jean and not Summer, you only see what you want to see in them. Ethan looked at the man with a mixture of pity and contempt. "No, it's not that I don't love Summer. She's my daughter. How could I not love her?" Gregory said, tears streaming down his face. "It's just that when she was born, her mother died in childbirth, and she looks so much like her mother. I could never get over her mother's death. I always felt like she was the one who killed her, so I could never get close to her. The more I saw her, the more painful it was, so I just started to ignore her. I was wrong, so wrong. You're a coward. Your child's mother died at birth, and instead of giving her more love, you deliberately ignored her. If Summer's mother knew how you treated the daughter she gave her life for, how heartbroken she would be." Ethan's words hit Gregory like a ton of bricks. He could almost see his wife's disappointed face. He had been so wrong. "Ethan, I'm so sorry for what I did to Summer. Can you please take good care of her from now on?" Gregory asked, his eyes full of hope. "I will cherish my own woman like a treasure," Ethan said proudly. He would spend the rest of his life making up for all the pain Summer had endured. "I have one last question for you. Where did Jean take Leo?" Ethan asked grimly. "I really don't know. I didn't even know she was the one who took him. How could I have been so blind? How could Jean do such a thing? I will confess to all my crimes and accept any punishment. Please tell Summer that her father is sorry," Gregory said, his face wet with tears of remorse as he left the interrogation room. He would live with this regret for the rest of his life. Ethan could see that Gregory was telling the truth. He really didn't know where Leo was. He took one last look at the broken man and strode out of the detention center. It seemed he wouldn't be getting any information about Leo from Gregory. He had no choice but to go to the women's prison. As much as he didn't want to see that vicious woman, he had to face her. When Jean was brought out, her usually immaculate face was a mess, her eyes vacant, a far cry from her former glamorous self. When she saw Ethan, her dull eyes instantly became frantic. Her handcuffed hands clinked as her body trembled violently. "Ethan Blackwood, how could you do this to me? I loved you so much, I trusted you, I did so much for you. Didn't you say I was your true love?" Jean shouted. "Ha, true love. You think I could ever truly love you? You're still dreaming." Ethan's lips curled into a mocking smile, his handsome face full of contempt. "But you were so gentle with me, so doting," Jean muttered, as if lost in a memory. "That was all an act. Every time I did it, I felt like throwing up. A cruel woman like you could never be loved by anyone, especially since I've always loved your sister, Summer, and never stopped." "Haha, yes, of course. I know you've liked that bitch Summer since you were little. But what's so great about her? I was the one who was more popular at home," Jean said defiantly. "I know what's so great about her. You wouldn't understand. But you were a bad seed from the beginning, weren't you? When we were young, I asked you to give a message to your sister. But not only did you not give it to her, you lied and said she didn't like me, that she hated people like me. You never told me how she felt about me, and because of you, we missed out on so many years," Ethan said, his anger rising as he remembered the past. "But don't you know, you liked my sister and she liked you, but I liked you too since we were little. I only did it because I loved you more than she did. I could do things for you that she couldn't. Why couldn't you see that?" Jean screamed, her face contorted with jealousy. "Shut up. Your love disgusts me. It's twisted. No, it's not love at all. You just like taking everything that belongs to Summer," Ethan said coldly. "Ethan, your gentleness towards me wasn't fake. I don't believe what you're saying now. You're just angry because I made a mistake. Please forgive me. My sister has AIDS. From what I saw at the hospital, she's already starting to show symptoms. She's not going to make it." Jean suddenly dropped her frantic tone and pleaded softly. She couldn't lose Ethan. She couldn't. "Ha, Jean, do you think everything will always go your way? Do you think you can just do whatever you want?" Ethan laughed mockingly, his eyes full of contempt and disgust. "What do you mean?" Jean asked, confused. "The person you hired has long been under my control. You think that blood could have ever gotten near Summer? You think I wouldn't have been prepared?" Ethan's sharp eyes stared at Jean. "How could that be? How could that be? I saw the video." "So you've been suspicious of me for a long time," Jean muttered in disbelief. "What do you think? Do you still foolishly believe that I would suddenly fall in love with you? How pathetic," Ethan sneered. "Ethan Blackwood, what was your goal? Why did you go to such lengths to deceive me?" Jean screamed in anger. "My goal is for criminals to go to jail and pay for their crimes. Your pathetic father only trusts a snake like you, not a good person like Summer." "What did you say? Who are you? You got close to me to arrest my father, so the mismatched blood type was also your doing. Everything you did for me was a lie. It seems you're not completely stupid. I'm a police officer. It's my duty to catch criminals. I only got close to you to gain your father's trust and bring him to justice more quickly," Ethan said sarcastically. "Of course, the mismatched blood type was my doing. With Summer's character, how could she possibly be carrying another man's child? I just never expected you to be so evil, to be willing to infect Summer with AIDS for your own selfish desires and not even spare Leo. It's all my fault. I was so stupid. How could I have fallen in love with you and got my father into trouble and done so much for you? Jean said, her voice full of madness. You've done so many terrible things, and instead of reflecting on your actions, you're blaming others. You'll never understand the gravity of your crimes. I don't think you'll ever repent. Only the law can punish you. Now, I'll ask you one last time. Where did you take Leo? If you tell me where he is, I can guarantee you a reduced sentence. Ethan Blackwood in your dreams, you say I'm cruel, but you're no better. For your own goals, you abandon the woman you love and even your own son. Is it all my fault? If you hadn't deceived me, would I have become so crazy? Now that you've achieved your goal, you want to find that little bastard. Dream on. You can't have it all. Jean's eyes were burning with a crazed fire. Ethan Blackwood, you're the cruelest one of all. You're the one who will do anything to achieve your goals. Even if I die, I'll take your and that bitch's child with me, ha ha ha. Jean laughed maniacally, her face twisted with rage. Jean, you insane bitch. Ethan, losing his cool, lunged at her and grabbed her by the neck, squeezing harder and harder. Jean struggled, then went limp. Ethan finally let go, and she gasped for air. He looked at the woman, who had no moral compass, and took a deep breath to stop himself from killing her. But what would be the difference between him and her then? He turned and left the detention center. If he stayed any longer, he was afraid he would lose control and kill her. He left the detention center, the bright sun blinding him. That vicious woman Jean wouldn't give him any clues about Leo. It was impossible to get any information from her now. The people he had sent to investigate had also come up empty. The team tracking Jean's phone contacts reported that she hadn't contacted anyone suspicious. It seemed she had used a different phone number for her criminal activities. The search for Leo had hit a dead end. Ethan's heart was filled with anxiety and self-blame. Perhaps Jean was right about one thing. He was also a cruel person. Even if it was for the sake of an investigation, to put the woman he loved and his newborn son in such a dangerous situation was also a form of cruelty. Thinking of Summer, who was still anxiously waiting for Leo's return at the hospital, Ethan's heart ached. He didn't have the courage to face her. People's Hospital. Ethan stood quietly outside Summer's room, watching her sleep. He couldn't bring himself to go in and tell her that he still hadn't found Leo. Ring, ring, his phone rang. He quickly took it out and silenced it, glancing at Summer to make sure she wasn't disturbed. He found a quiet corner to answer the call. Ethan Blackwood, it's me, Jean's mother, Melinda Sullivan. I need to talk to you, Melinda said, her voice filled with suppressed hatred. All right, when? Ethan replied quickly. This might be his only chance to find out where Leo was. I'll text you the time and place. Come immediately. If you're late, the meeting is off, Melinda said and hung up. Soon, a message with the address and time arrived. It was an unknown cafe in a very remote area, and the meeting was in half an hour. Ethan quickly calculated that he would have to leave immediately to make it on time. It seemed Melinda wasn't giving him any time to prepare. This woman, who always seemed so cheerful, was not as simple as she appeared. After all, she had raised a daughter as cruel as Jean. The tricky part was that her choice of meeting time and place showed that she had some counter-surveillance skills. Ethan didn't have time to think. He quickly made some arrangements and drove to the cafe. The Alley Cafe. When Ethan arrived, Melinda was already waiting by the window, her eyes fixed on the street outside, her posture stiff, clearly nervous. The usually well-dressed Melinda was without makeup today, looking haggard. The imprisonment of her husband and daughter had clearly taken its toll on her. Ethan Blackwood, how can you face me so calmly? I've seen my husband and daughter. They told me everything, you liar, Melinda said, her eyes like daggers as she stared at him. I'm a police officer. I was just doing my job, catching criminals. Your husband and daughter broke the law. Even if it wasn't me, other police officers would have arrested them, Ethan said coldly. If he had done anything wrong, it was to Summer, not to these people. How can you say something so shameless? You deceived my daughter, you ruined her life. Don't you feel any guilt? Melinda said, slamming the table, thinking of her daughter's pitiful state in the detention center. Don't forget, it was your daughter who was always trying to come between me and Summer. And everything she did was out of jealousy and cruelty. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Ethan said, not wanting to argue with these people, but he had to, for Leo's sake. Ethan Blackwood, don't push me too far. Don't forget, your son is in my daughter's hands, and I know where he is. But you have to release my daughter, then I'll tell you where that little bastard is, Melinda said coldly. Jean has committed a felony. How can I release her? If she tells us where Leo is, we can consider a reduced sentence, Ethan said calmly, but his hands, hidden under the table, were trembling. This was his only lead to find Leo. He couldn't lose it. Ethan Blackwood, don't talk to me about the law. You deceived Jean, you deceived our whole family. That's a crime too, isn't it? You're a police officer. You can make it happen. Do you want to see your son or not? It's your decision, Melinda said, her voice rising, clearly agitated. Ethan stared at her, thinking. Seeing him hesitate, Melinda grew anxious. Ethan Blackwood, I just want to save my daughter. If you can get her released, I'll take her abroad immediately and all of this will be over. All right, I agree. It's a deal, Ethan nodded. Ethan Blackwood, don't try any tricks. Do as I say, or you can start planning your son's funeral. Seeing him agree, Melinda gave him a vicious warning and quickly left the cafe. She had a lot to do before she could get her daughter out. Just as she stepped out, she was bumped by a young man and fell to the ground, her phone flying out of her hand. She scrambled to her feet, cursing under her breath. The young man quickly picked up her phone, dusted it off, and handed it to her with a smile. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I was in a hurry. Are you all right? The young man apologized profusely. Watch where you're going. Are you in a hurry to die? Melinda said, snatching her phone and storming off. She was in such a hurry that she didn't notice the young man give a thumbs up to Ethan, who was still sitting by the window. And Ethan, who rarely showed his emotions, couldn't help but smile. After leaving the cafe, Melinda found a secluded spot, looked around to make sure no one was there, and took out her phone. It's me, Melinda Sullivan. I'm going to see that little bastard now. Come and pick me up, Melinda said coldly, then quickly turned off her phone. Soon, a middle-aged man in a baseball cap appeared and opened a car door for her. She quickly got in. The car drove off, weaving through the city streets for a while before heading out of town, clearly trying to shake off any tails. The road became more and more remote, and after a long stretch of dirt road, the car finally stopped in front of a secluded farmhouse. Melinda got out and looked around cautiously. Seeing no one, she dusted off her clothes with a look of disgust. Stay here and watch. Let me know if you see anything, Melinda ordered the man, who nodded. She then walked into the yard. In the yard, a woman dressed as a typical farmer was feeding a baby. She walked over, and the farmer quickly stood up, timidly offering her a seat. Ma'am, you're here. Please sit down. Melinda looked at the old wooden stool with disgust and chose to stand. She glanced at the baby in the farmer's arms. He was chubby and rosy-cheeked, like a doll from a New Year's painting. The little bastard is well fed, but my daughter is suffering in prison. He should die. Give me the baby, Melinda said impatiently. The farmer looked at the baby reluctantly and handed him over. Melinda took him, her eyes full of malice as she looked at his face. The farmer's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't dare to say anything. A while ago, this well-dressed woman had appeared at their house with the baby, gave her husband, who was in trouble, a large sum of money, and left the baby. She had said she would be back in a few days and told them not to tell anyone. They didn't know what was going on, but they thought maybe she was the wife, and this was the mistress's child. Raising a child wasn't a crime, and they needed the money, so they agreed. At first, the farmer was very nervous, but when no one came to ask about the baby, she relaxed. The baby was well-behaved and cute, and she had grown attached to him. Seeing the woman's expression now, she was afraid she would hurt the baby, but she could only watch helplessly, hoping she would leave soon. Melinda looked at the sleeping baby, who had just finished feeding, and wanted to strangle him. But the thought that her daughter's life depended on this little bastard made her hold back her hatred. She looked at him for a while, then handed him back to the farmer, who quickly held him tight. Melinda went to a corner of the yard, took out a spare phone, and dialed Ethan's number. Ethan Blackwood, it's me, Melinda Sullivan. We'll meet at the private jet hangar at the airport tomorrow at noon. Your son for my daughter. Don't try any tricks, or I'll kill the little bastard. My husband and daughter are already in jail. I have nothing left to lose. Melinda said viciously. Don't worry. As long as you have the child, I won't do anything to jeopardize his safety. I'll bring Jean, Ethan promised. Her goal achieved, Melinda quickly hung up and turned off her phone. Now all she had to do was wait for tomorrow to exchange the little bastard for her daughter, and then they would leave the country. She couldn't afford any mistakes now. The police were very cunning. She couldn't let them trace her location through her phone. She went back to the farmer and snatched the baby again, her eyes crazed and evil. "You little bastard, your parents are very cunning. I'll use you to get my daughter back first. You can live a few more days. When I get the chance, I'll make you all pay for what my family has suffered," Melinda said viciously, her eyes full of hatred. The farmer held the baby tighter, her hands trembling. "They're going to take the baby away. What should I do? Keep a close eye on the little bastard. I'll send someone to pick him up tomorrow," Melinda ordered, then walked out. As she opened the gate, she was stunned to find Ethan and a group of police officers standing there, looking at her grimly. Her man had already been subdued by the police, his mouth gagged, his eyes full of terror. "No, that cunning bastard Ethan tracked me here." She quickly turned and ran back towards the house. Ethan and the police, caught off guard and unfamiliar with the layout of the house, couldn't catch her in time. They watched in horror as she snatched the baby from the farmer's arms. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. They were so close, and now Leo was in danger again. "Damn it. Ethan Blackwood, you cunning bastard. Don't come any closer or I'll strangle this little bastard," Melinda screamed, her hand tightening around Leo's neck, her eyes crazed. Leo, sensing the malice, started to cry, his cries tearing at Ethan's heart. "What do we do?" One of the police officers whispered nervously. This was not what they had expected. They never thought this woman would react so quickly. "Don't move, she has the baby. Don't do anything rash," Ethan said nervously. He couldn't let anything happen to Leo. "Melinda Sullivan, don't be impulsive. If you put the baby down now, I promise you'll be safe. But if you continue to resist, you'll end up in jail with your husband and daughter," Ethan said, his voice low, slowly approaching her. "Ethan Blackwood, let me go right now, or I'll strangle the little bastard," Melinda screamed, tightening her grip. Leo's cries grew louder, then began to fade as her grip tightened. Ethan's heart was in his throat. If this continued, that old woman would kill him. He couldn't wait any longer. He made up his mind, quickly drew his gun, aimed at the hand holding Leo's neck, and fired. "Ah!" Melinda screamed, her hand releasing its grip. Leo was about to fall to the ground. In that split second, Ethan lunged forward with all his might and caught him just before he hit the ground. The other police officers rushed in and finally subdued the crazed Melinda. Ethan, holding the wailing Leo, finally felt his heart return to his chest. Ignoring his own injuries, he stood up and gently comforted him. "Ethan Blackwood, you will die a horrible death, a horrible death." Melinda was still screaming curses as the police gagged her and put her in the car. It was finally over. "Summer, I've found our son. I'm coming back to you." "Leo, don't cry. We're going to see Mommy now. Be a good boy," Ethan said, holding him, his movements a little clumsy. "My son, Daddy is so sorry. I haven't taken good care of you since you were born. I've caused you to wander, to be without a home. But from now on, I will always be with you and your mother. I will make it up to you." "Ethan, you're back. You need to get that treated," a police officer said, pointing to his injured back. "It's nothing. All I want now is to take Leo back to Summer," Ethan said, unconcerned. "People's Hospital." Ethan rushed back to the hospital, holding Leo, and knocked on the door of Summer's room. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring out the window. "Leo, my poor child, where are you? Mommy's heart is breaking waiting for you." "Summer, look who I've brought," Ethan said, his voice trembling, his heart about to burst out of his chest. Summer slowly turned her head. When she saw Leo in his arms, her empty eyes instantly lit up, like stars suddenly appearing in the night sky, so bright and dazzling. "Leo, Leo, is it really my Leo?" Summer asked in disbelief. Ethan brought the baby to her. The baby's pure eyes looked straight at his mother, full of curiosity. Perhaps it was the natural bond between mother and child, but Leo's little hand slowly reached out to touch her. Summer felt like she was dreaming. Leo was really here. She reached out with a trembling hand and gently touched him. His skin was so soft, so warm, so real. "Leo, it's really my little Leo. Mommy missed you so much," Summer said, hugging him tightly, her tears flowing like a broken string of pearls. "Leo, it's all Mommy's fault. I'm so useless. I lost you," Summer cried, her heart overflowing with a mix of despair, hope, and relief. Summer, don't cry, don't cry. It's not your fault at all. It's all my fault. Look, Leo is back now and he's so healthy. We should be happy. Ethan's own eyes welled up with tears. The usually arrogant, domineering man was now just an ordinary husband and father. Yes, I won't cry, I won't cry. Leo is back, I should be happy. I won't cry, Summer said, looking at Leo, laughing and crying at the same time. She couldn't cry anymore. It would scare him. She quickly wiped her tears and held him, comforting him softly. Leo, you must be hungry. Mommy will feed you now, be a good boy. She unbuttoned her shirt and started to breastfeed him, but after a few tries, no milk came out. Seeing Leo's face turn red from the effort, she grew anxious. What should I do? What should I do? Mommy is so useless. I haven't fed him in so long, my milk has dried up, Summer said guiltily. Summer, don't worry, it's okay. If Leo keeps trying, the milk will come back, Ethan said, holding both of them, his voice gentle. Summer calmed down, and Leo, as if encouraged, tried again. Finally, the milk came, and he began to suckle eagerly. Seeing him drink, Summer finally smiled through her tears. Good boy, Leo. Ethan watched them, holding them even tighter. From now on, they were his whole world. He would never leave them again. I'm sorry, Summer, and our child, Leo, I'm sorry, Ethan said, resting his chin on her shoulder, his voice choked with emotion, as if containing 1,000 unspoken words. Summer trembled slightly but didn't say anything, didn't pull away. Summer, you don't know how happy I was when I took this mission. It was a chance to get close to you again. When I met you again, I knew I had never forgotten you. I fell in love with you the first time I saw you, when we were teenagers. I gathered all my courage and asked Jean to give you a message, but she told me you didn't like me. I was so proud and sensitive back then. It's so ridiculous now. I could have just pursued you myself, but my stupid pride made me run away. I thought I had forgotten you. Ethan laughed at his younger self. He paused, then continued. Later, when I got close to you again, I realized I had never forgotten you. I had just buried my feelings. You don't know how happy I was when you agreed to go out with me. You were the first and only person I've ever loved. But I had to carry out the mission. I had no choice, but I was wrong again. I thought I could complete the mission quickly without hurting you and Leo, but I overestimated myself. God knows how much I regret it. I wanted to kill myself every day, but that wouldn't have changed anything. You don't know how scared I was when I saw Leo fall from Melinda's hands. I was so scared. But thank God he's okay. I must be the most heartless, irresponsible father in the world. Thinking of that moment, Ethan's body began to tremble. Summer felt his fear. So this proud, arrogant man could also be so helpless and scared. Through her tears, she saw that his back was bleeding, soaking his shirt, a shocking sight. Your back is bleeding, Summer said in alarm. Summer, don't worry, it's just a small scratch. It'll be fine, Ethan said softly, trying to move so she couldn't see his back. Go get it treated, Summer said, her voice choked with emotion. Summer, this is nothing compared to the pain you've been through. Don't worry about it. Summer, I don't expect you to forgive me now. I only hope you'll let me stay by your side and take care of you and Leo. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for all the pain you and Leo have suffered. Let me heal your wounds. I don't ask for your love, I just ask that you stay with me. Please, Ethan said, his voice trembling, his eyes full of hope. Summer's tears flowed even more freely. She had already found out from Ethan's colleagues that he had done all of this to investigate a case. Although he had been so cruel to her on the surface, he had been secretly protecting her, including when Jean had arranged for someone to inject her with HIV-positive blood. He had found out and turned it into a part of his plan to protect her, so he had been protecting her and Leo all along. How much pain must he have been in, carrying out his mission? She had already forgiven him. He said he didn't ask for her love, but had she ever stopped loving him? She had just tried to ignore it. I love you. Even though I've regretted it, denied it, ignored it, I still love you. It's like an addiction. Once you're infected, it's hard to quit. Summer said, hugging the hopeful Ethan, her tears flowing. Hearing her words, Ethan was stunned. She still loved him, after all the terrible things he had done? Summer, thank you. I love you more than you can imagine. They held each other tightly, the sunlight streaming through the curtains, illuminating the crying family, creating a halo of sacred, happy light. Who says fairy tales are just stories? When fairy tales become reality, happiness will surround them forever. The end.